What is going on, Solar Team? I'd like to welcome you all to the first ever podcast episode here on the channel. I haven't came up with a name yet, so if anyone has any ideas, sling them at me, because I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, this is a conversation between myself and another YouTuber by the name of Generation Offended. If you haven't checked out his channel yet, please do so. He and I share similar opinions, but one thing he does that I don't is animation. So if you're a fan of things like Invincible or Arcane, he's your guy. Also, if you'd like to jump into the conversation with us and be a part of an episode or two, feel free to email me at tolertalks@gmail.com or just comment down below. As always, this is an open discussion video, so if you have anything you want to add, it won't be held or deleted, and I'll respond to any and everyone that has input. So, comment away. Let us know what you think, whether you agree or disagree. Thank you in advance for listening in. Let's get into this. Well, I guess this is going to be like what a bi-weekly thing here. What's going on, guys? This is Toller Talks, and I am here with my man, the myth, the legend, Generation Offended. What's going on, dude?
Oh, not too much, man. I'm excited to talk about some Last of Us with you.
Oh Lord, yep. It's we did listen. We take criticism. We take the advice of people that listen to our first collaboration. And so what we've got lined up today is we've got The Last of Us, the hot topic, the second game, talking about one of the characters in the last episode went away. We're going to talk about that, and Bella Ramsey, how she's going to carry the show moving forward. And since we're talking about video game adaptations, we're going to bring up everyone's favorite one, the one that's totally not annoying and the one that's totally not destroying theaters, Minecraft. And then, of course, there's been Until Dawn, which came out last week too, but that was not a video game adaptation. And then to round it out, we've got Thunderbolts. What's it look like for the MCU moving forward? Is it going to revitalize things, or is Thunderbolts going to fall on its face? Generation Offended, go ahead and start me off, man. What you got on The Last of Us?
Oh man, that's so I'm all caught up to date. I know you are as well. So I want to know, what are you feeling like going into the rest of the season now that Joel's dead? Are you are you essentially mourning the show already, or are you excited?
Well, okay, yeah, I'm the polar opposite of excited. So just to kind of give you background, I know my community knows this. I don't know if you know this, but the first Last of Us game is my favorite game of all time. I played all three iterations of it: the PS3, PS4, and then the PS5 remaster. I probably played through the game 10 times. And just to kind of give you an idea how I feel about the second game, I played it once. That's it. So, and as far as video game characters go, Joel Miller is my favorite game character of all time. I found, especially not to get too personal here, you're coming back from Afghanistan in the Marine Corps. I found a lot of comfort in Joel as a character as he developed who he was and just seeing how he reacted to things and emotionally grew. So now that he dies in the second game, we knew it was coming. And then now we've got all the 40-year-old wine moms pissed off because Pedro Pascal's died in the show. I don't know what to feel about it moving forward. Maybe you can help me out there. I'm getting a little wishy-washy here thinking about it.
Yeah, I think despair, grief, these are good emotions to describe how I feel going into the rest of the season. I really don't have a lot of hope for it. I think without Joel centering the show, anchoring the story, it's really just going to fall apart. I don't think Bella Ramsey has what it takes to be a leading lady. I don't think she's a good adaptation of Ellie, and I don't think there's anybody to replace Joel as a character. Because naturally, not only is there's a huge hole in the show, but now all of our expectations are going to be way higher because you're not only going to have to fill Joel's space in the show, but you're going to have to essentially one up yourself as a writer in this situation to regain the audience's attention and interest in what's going on because you're missing the central character. So I think a show. Sorry, I'll continue with Game of Thrones. Did this with Ned Stark, and what that show had going for it though was a huge cast of supporting characters that were fascinating, interesting, compelling, deep, and there's a huge fallback, right? But with The Last of Us, there's only really one character to rely on. I mean, Abby is obviously going to be a huge part of the show now, but good luck replacing Joel with Abby. So-
Well, I think that for what it's worth too, and I want to put this out there. Caitlin Dever, who is the actress who played Abby, she did fantastic. And for anyone that's listening, and if you don't recall what happened when the second game came out, I can't remember her name for the life of me, and I'm sorry about that. But the voice actress for Abby was receiving death threats from
Oh
the
yeah.
community, from the fan base, because of what happened in the events of the game. So for anybody that's watching, whether it's one person or 10,000 people, Caitlin Dever did a great job. She was only doing what the writers told her to do, and I actually think she's really good. And she doesn't fit the physical profile of Abby. She's like a 5'2" child. I'm 6'8". I mean, Joel's 6'1". I mean, he could quite literally punt her, but she did a really good job. So I will say that. Don't give her any hell. Don't give her any shit. For the love of God, don't give her any death threats. That's no, 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 no. But as far as moving the show forward, I don't know what we did. I mean, all the people that played the game knew it was coming. But the thing is that the Ellie in the game, she was an asshole. She was very abrasive at times. I don't know if you played the second game or not. She was very
No, I didn't.
rash, but she was always likable. Like there was always something relatable there with her, and she had her moments of quirkiness and where it was fun exploring her as a character. And Bella Ramsey just doesn't do it for me. She gets the asshole part down, but she doesn't get anything else.
Very true. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah,
But
she. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no. So I watched your video on I guess the death of the Last of Us. I can't remember what you titled it, and you talked about how Joel died, and expand on that a little bit for him. What was the biggest problem you had? I mean, obviously we knew he was going to die, but what was your
Mhm.
issue with how he died?
Uh, I think the biggest problem was how he just, accepted it. Like there's no fight back. There's no explanation. I really felt uncomfortable or it felt really unnatural for Joel not to be like, at any point, he's got a lot of time to say, hey, the reason I killed your dad was because he was going to kill my daughter. Like, oh, that's all he had to, and, it might not have saved him. It might not have, changed Abby's opinion of him. But, there are definitely people in that room who are not as comfortable with beating Joel to death as Abby is. And I think as a natural, like, just survival instinct, it would be just to be like, hey, this is why I did it. At least give them closure, if nothing else. Instead, he just sits there and just is quiet and lets it happen. Even though I feel like the character deserved a bit of explanation. We deserve to hear his side of the story. Like, how he feels about it. And I think they robbed us of that. And I think just keeping him this kind of quiet, meek character really steps on Joel as a person.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right there with you. I think that most of this side of YouTube, I believe the drinker did a video on it as well. It's something that he stated, in which, he's played the second game as well. So I mean, we know this character extremely well. I would consider myself an expert as much as I've played the game and the lore and all that, and the fact that he's my favorite. And it's very out of character for him. Especially, you can bring up the physical differences. The reason why Abby was able to overpower and do the things that she did in the second game was because she had that physical prowess. And I'm willing to cede the fact that, Caitlin Devers is a lot smaller than the Abby we see in game. I think that's okay. That's fine. I think people who are complaining about that, it's kind of stupid. Okay. But I can't see the fact from a narrative standpoint that Joel is just going to sit there on his knees, like a little kid, like just a
Mhm.
beaten, battered, bruised old man, and doesn't say anything.
Mhm.
I think him saying, if you're just gonna go ahead and do it, do it. That was a good moment for him. But I think him not, like you said, producing why he did what he did to kind of explain, to speak not to Abby, but to the other people in her group and say, look, you're going to kill me. I get it, but here's why I did what I did, and he just didn't. That there was no way to avoid his death. There's no way Neil Druckmann was going to take that hit to his pride and say, you know what, I fucked up by killing him in the second game. Druckmann was never going to do that. But again, they made how he died worse than it was in the game, and it was already bad.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, they definitely weren't going to change it. They were going to keep, Joel's death pretty much the way it was. I think, yeah, it really just bothers me that not only does it happen with his death, but like throughout the entire first two episodes, you just see him Joel constantly be beaten down by pretty much every woman he talks to. Like, they're always talking down to him or belittling him or lecturing him on, his mistakes. And you just never get that scene where Joel's like, hey man, like I'm not I didn't make that choice because of anything but the need to save my own child, like because he sees Ellie as his kid.
Of course.
And so I think it's very relatable, or at least it's very easy to empathize with somebody, a parent who wants to save their kid. But the show, I think, takes this moral stance against Joel's decision, like he's the bad guy. And they do that through Ellie, and they do that through Abby, and they do it with the therapist chick as well.
Right.
And yeah,
That's something I commented on your video. That's what I was talking about. I was like, where did that comment go? Because that's something that happens in the second game as well. And it's really interesting watching the conversation from both sides of the community because, you've got people that are saying, well, Joel's supposed to look that way. He is the bad guy. He did make the bad choice. He wasn't supposed to do that. And I'm like, it's not very open-minded of you because I have a daughter. And I know for a fact that if I was caught in that same situation, I would feel bad of robbing her of her bodily autonomy and robbing her of her choice. But as a parent, I could see myself making that same decision. Is that a bad decision in my mind? No, it's not. And I can make an argument in Joel's mind, it wasn't either. But if you talk to people that defend the second game, the basis of their defense is that, yes, Joel was a terrible person. No, the game was left morally ambiguous for a reason, you dickhead. And the reason why we don't like the second game is because they pull back on that ambiguity and they make Joel look bad, which is why half the the second game sold 15 million copies. The first one has sold over 35 million. So it obviously resonated with a certain part of the community and didn't resonate with others.
yeah. Well, I think you touched on something there with the fans of the second game. Like, I think when it comes to the moral ambiguity of Joel's decision, like had they just ended the story after the first game and in season one and just left it, that would have been a perfect ending because it would have left both sides of the opinion of Joel's decision valid. We would have been in this constant debate, like, is it right to save Ellie and kill all these people and ruin the chance for a cure, or was it more moral to if Joel left Ellie there to die and to make the cure? So it was a really good debate, yeah, and the second game totally goes back on all of that. And it's like there's no moral ambiguity. Joel's a piece of shit, and now we just have to watch Joel get raked over the coals all over and over and over again for making this choice that is completely reasonable. And I think, yeah, it sucks because they've taken an interesting debate and made it into this one-sided argument that's makes half the audience kind of like be like, what the hell?
Well, yeah,
I
mean, it's so polarizing because you heard me explain why I would make a similar choice, right? So when you have a second game and a second season of the show that demonizes that choice by proxy, you're demonizing the same people that would make the same choice. So not only is the show and the game saying Joel's a piece of shit for doing it, they're pretty much looking at me and saying you're a piece of shit because you would too, and that doesn't make for success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the show had and the game had kind of reached that natural ending. There's like that conclusion to the first game is perfect. There's
So
nowhere
good.
and there's nowhere to really go with the characters. So like by continuing it past that point at all is like a big fault, and you're pretty much guaranteed a loss because we had seen the fulfillment of their characters, right? Like Joel, it was all about Joel and Ellie's relationship. They go from, like Joel is just sees her as a mission to she's his daughter. And there's that perfect conclusion of their story where they're now united, they walk off into the sunset, and it's a great ending. But by continuing it, like there's nowhere to go with these characters. They're like the only thing that they could have done, which is what they did do, is create drama between Joel and Ellie because you can't get the relationship to be grow any more than what it was. Like they are just child and parent. But now like there's just nowhere to go past that. Like we can get more time with Joel and Ellie because we might like those characters, but yeah, to create a story, you kind of just have to make drama with them because there's like they can only go down. They've reached the peak.
Yeah, I agree. I
So
mean, we probably could have explored things a little bit differently in the second game. Like, there's something that they have kept out of the show, and I guess they're going to use it as a flashback because Bella Ramsey's not carrying the show, so they're going to have Pedro in there in some portions. But one of the best scenes from the second game comes within the first, I'd say, hour, where Joel catches up to Ellie in a garage and teaches her how to play guitar, and he sings Future Days to her. And you said that the relationship they have at the end of the game is kind of like at its peak. I would argue that little instances, little scenes like that in the second game actually, make it go a little bit further. It still builds, and I think we could still have built on their relationship. We could have had an instance where Joel is an old man. We know he is. He could have gotten injured. He could have gotten sick, and the second game could have, been about him teaching her everything he knows or mentoring her. I mean, you could even put Ellie in the spotlight and played as her through 80% of the game and been fine. But yeah, I don't know. The gamer in me, I want to disagree with you and say, no, man, I wanted more games. But, from a narrative standpoint, you're right. That first game is peak. But I will say this. I'll ask you this question. I had a follower of mine, I believe on the first episode recap, who said that he was hoping when they announced the second game that they were going to flip the script and they were going to do it from another angle instead of Joel and Ellie, which is a father and daughter, that they were going to have that seeing how a mother would interact with her son in this particular setting, how good
oh,
that would have been. What do you think about that?
and then you said that was for the second game. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think that it's a well used dynamic, the child and parent going through a story. Like you got that with the God of War series,
Yep.
and I think it's pretty reliable. And I think yeah, you could definitely craft a new story out of it. I think anything besides what we got would have been better. I think they should have definitely just dropped the Joel and Ellie story and just made new characters that were interesting. Do it in a new place in the United States, right? Like show a different area, have a new story that's disconnected from Joel and Ellie, and just and do it like that. Just do like one-off games where it's like you're living in this really interesting world, right? Like the Last of Us world is cool, and you can see how humanity progresses through every game, just focusing on different people each time. And that way you have endless dynamics you could come up with, like the mother and son dynamic instead, and keep it fresh and create new and interesting characters. I think that would prolong the series better because yeah, like I said, I just don't think there's anywhere to go with the main characters. Ellie and Joel have like I understand the need or the want, sorry, to see them interact and have those nice little moments with the guitar in the garage, like I get it. But I think it's kind of like yeah, it's reached its natural conclusion, and even though we just have that natural desire to want more, I don't think it's not necessary, and it kind of just impedes on this overall story.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking. Like I said, a follower was the one that brought that up to me and said that would have been a better route, which I agree. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, how cool would it have been, to explore that? They start off on the West Coast because we saw the East Coast. We got to see Boston. We got to obviously see, Jackson going towards the Midwest, but we don't actually see anything from the West Coast. I'm just, the gamer me just has all these ideas swirling through my head. And I'm like, how cool would it have been to actually get to do that story, the mother and son story? And then along the lines, like, halfway through the game or third through the game, they run into Joel and Ellie and Jackson as they're making their way somewhere else. I'm like, that would just be so fucking cool. But, it's something that
Yeah, they did.
we just didn't get it.
Yeah, like having a pop up with them and having that nice little moment where you see them kind of like, yeah, like having them be disconnected. And they just happen upon Joel and Ellie, and you see them and their bliss essentially, like they've made it to Jackson. They're happy. That would have been great, and I think that would definitely get the fans going. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, making them the central characters is doing something different entirely would have been great because like there's so much to explore. Like they could come up with some new factions, like people trying to take like, regrow humanity, like make new civilizations and stuff like that. Having a different experience to like places like Jackson and the camps that they've been in, like like have maybe just a whole new society brewing and have a game in there where like they're maybe in a big city that's like survives somehow and there's a whole new type of civilization forming.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, though, when we're sitting there talking about the second episode of the show, there's one thing that pissed me off, and it wasn't that Ellie was a dick or that Joel was being belittled and emasculated or dying. The thing that pissed me off the most is we didn't get the best line this second game has ever given us.
Bacon sandwiches.
Bro, you could ask my girl. I saw that scene pop up, and I'm like, oh my god, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And I'm like, I gotta hear it. I gotta hear bigot sandwiches. She didn't say
Yeah,
it.
they left it out. Yeah, they totally robbed us of that moment.
Like just single handedly the biggest line of just cringe I've ever heard in my life.
Oh yeah. Well, so you played the second game, and obviously the political messaging was pretty heavy-handed in that game.
Oh yeah.
Um, do you think that season two is seeing that same kind of heavy-handed messaging, or do you think they've really pulled back on it? Obviously, leaving the bigot sandwiches out, I think is a sign that they're trying to tone it down a little bit. But how do you see it?
Give me just a second here. A second. It, she's Zazer, whatever the hell the damn thing's name is. I know there's a transgender person that is in, I can't remember the damn name. Lev. There we go. Lev. That's in the second game. I don't know if we're going to get more of Lev. I have no idea. As far as political messaging, I mean, the season's already got Druckmann written all over it. Just the scene that happens when Dina and Ellie share their kiss, during the dance or whatever. Even that scene was blown out of proportion because in the game, Joel just comes out of nowhere. He hears the guy says, talks about them being lesbian, and he comes out of nowhere and he shoves him. But it's a shove. It's like a push. It's like a strong push. The guy stays on his feet. He's fine, and Joel just kind of tells him to fuck off. Where in the show, I noticed they made it worse. Like they're trying to display this toxic white masculinity because he doesn't just push him. He absolutely Pearl Harbors him. He shrugs him. Dude falls on the ground. Like Joel just comes out of nowhere and just NFL linebackers his ass. And I'm like, I get what you're doing here. You're trying to make him look more like a dick. I can see it. But as far as the political messaging goes, I don't know where to go from here because I don't know. I don't want to give my opinion on that because I just don't. It really depends on the community's response to how that second episode went. Because I feel like if they start double and triple downing on this political crap, it's going to push what audience is left out the door.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think it's already there. It's pretty. I don't. I definitely, like you said, it has Neil Druckmann all over it. There's definitely this scene where Ellie and her girlfriend's name? I forgot all of a sudden.
Dina.
Anyway, so Dina, right? Yeah. So Ellie and Dina are on patrol, and they want to go into the grocery store, and then they're debating about it, and Ellie's like, "Wait, you gonna let the men do all the work?" It's like- There's definitely these moments of cringe, and you can feel it seeping through with the characters. All the women are always right. They're the powerful ones. The men are pretty meek. They're pretty quiet. Um, Joel's a good example of that, like we were complaining about before. It's just him constantly just being talked down to. He's constantly miserable. He's not defending himself. And I think a lot of the men are kind of acting that way. Like you even see it with Tommy a bit, with his scene against the bloater. And I know that the big siege was, what everyone talked about for that episode. And I get it, it was cool. But what really bothered me about that was how they betrayed Tommy with the flamethrower bit. Where, he's fighting off the big bloater zombie, and it's being eaten away, but it just keeps pushing through, and he's stuck. He's like, it's a dead end. He has nowhere to go, and he just lays down, ready to die. It's like that's not Tommy. Tommy wouldn't do that. Tommy wouldn't just lay down on the ground and be like, "Yeah, fucking kill me." It was kind
No.
of like this. Yeah, he didn't fight the way that Tommy should have. So I think even when they have a moment of like a male character stepping up for himself and being a badass, they still just need that little like dig in the kidneys where you just got like, they're not as cool as the girls are.
Well, I half expected. Like I was turning and talking to my girl, and I said, I swear to God, like he's getting backed into this corner. I'm like, if his wife comes around that corner and
Oh.
saves him, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. Which didn't happen, so I guess expectations can be subverted. But I was like, golly, you're right. No, it's, Joel and Tommy are very much alike in that they're very, they're old school Texans, and they're obviously older in their age. They've seen a lot of shit, and so him just kind of just laying down and just, this is the inevitable, instead of, running at the motherfucker and just beating his way out, doing everything he could. He didn't do that. He just rolled over like a submissive puppy and just said, well, this is how it ends.
Yeah, like it would have been okay if he was like, just kind of like kill me, yeah, like do it, kind of like, badass, like, yell, does a Jon Snow yell at the zombie? I remember he yells at the dragon that show. That was
Oh
stupid,
yeah.
but that kind of like manly, like I'm going to go out, like a man kind of thing. He just lays down. He's like, like he's like making all these wimpy noises and stuff. I found it kind of brutal, but yeah. So I think there's still that message there. There's still that, they just can't get rid of it really. Um, I'm excited to see the pregnant woman on patrol. I know that's coming.
Oh Lord, just yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play the second game, but I did watch a lot of reviews of it, and so I don't have like a strong opinion about the game because I didn't play it, and I try to be unbiased as I can be. But I heard so many spoilers and so many people shit talking it that I was just never entered. I was never gonna pay $90 to play that game. Uh, and so I do know like the main story beats of what happens because so many people were talking about it. My friends are telling me what goes on, and so I know that the pregnant woman on patrol is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they take that part out. That always like that's just crazy. Why would you do that? Why would you have her in that position? It doesn't make any sense. She's like a doctor, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that kind of leads into this, this next subtopic under The Last of Us, and it's talking about the future of the show. So, from the game perspective, what we're getting ready to see, and why so many people had such an issue with that narrative of the second game, is that right now Abby is public enemy number one. So not only in the game, because here's the thing, here's the stark difference between what happens in the show and what happens in the game. We had no idea Joel was going to die. We knew who Abby was. We didn't know her prerogative. We didn't know why she was angry. We didn't know that she was going to kill Joel. We knew nothing about her. Whereas in the show, they make sure to tell you right off the bat, she's coming after Joel. They say it a couple of times. They tell you why. You actually don't figure out the reason for what Abby doing what she did until about 25 hours into the game. Whereas in the show, you find out in the first fucking episode. So the stark differences there is that the showrunners prepped people. They made Joel look like a dick. They let people know what Abby was there to do. So when it happened, it kind of softened the blow. Whereas in the game, it comes out of nowhere. Literally, nobody sees it coming. It's just Tommy and Joel talking with these people, in this lodge or whatever. And then boom, all of a sudden she's on top of him, the golf club thing, shoots him the whole nine. And as the gamers, we're just sitting there going, why? What's happened? Like, what is going on here? So as far as the future of the show goes, what we're going to explore through the rest of these episodes is they're going to try and rationalize what Abby did, which is not going to work like it didn't work in the second game. So now we hate Abby. She's public enemy number one. She killed Joel. Not only she killed Joel, she killed Pedro Pascal. So the rest of the show now is going to be exploring her side of the story and essentially trying to get you to like her and justify what she did. It didn't work in the second game, and I can guarantee you it's not going to work in the show.
Yeah, well, so what I've heard so far is that the show is going to be 3, maybe 4 seasons long as well. So this isn't even
2.
like the last of it.
It's going to be 2.
Sorry?
It's going to be 2. So we have the second game is we're going to have 7 episodes for season 2. And then I think there's going to be 8 episodes in season 3 that's going to cover the back half of the second game.
Okay, so yeah, well, yeah, what I heard was that it was going to be 3. Neil Druckmann apparently said that it's going to be 3 to possibly 4 seasons.
I don't know how he's going to do that because
Yeah,
the show's based on the game, and he made sure there wasn't a third game. So I don't know how he's going to do that.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm kind of worried about is that you're going to see like a lot of treading water essentially to get from one point, like kind of like The Walking Dead did it, with the comics was that they just, tread water, oh, big story moment, tread water, and then like really drag things out so that they can make the show longer.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So I don't. How do you feel about like did you want it just to be 2 seasons?
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, The Last of Us is, people say it's just entertainment or it's just a show or it's just a game. I think I speak for a large portion of the fandom, the nerdum, and that it's not just that to us. It's very personal, and for me, it's very personal. So, to me, you know, I think this was Druckmann's idea all along. I do not see him as a game developer. I do not see him as a creative director. I do not see him as a visionary. That's how he sees himself. I do see him as some kind of pompous TV showrunner writer person, and I think that was always his end goal, was to end up somewhere in Hollywood. Maybe not doing a TV series, but doing movies or something like that. And I feel cheated. Because that first game was just so damn good, and especially with the writing elements of Amy Hennig, who she left the project, but you can tell she left a lot of, excuse me, she left her mark on The Last of Us, and then seeing the stark contrast that happens with the second game, where there's none of her in there. So yeah, I mean, I didn't want to see. Here's the thing: I didn't want to see a second season of the show because I knew about the second game.
Right. Yeah.
So, do I wish things were different? Yes. I wish right now I was hearing about the development process of The Last of Us 3. And it's actually, my girl will tell you, it's a very emotional thing for me because I have some really close personal ties and mental reasonings for what the game did to me and kind of dug me, out of a pretty depressive hole. So, seeing what it's become is like, it's truly saddening. Like it sucks that something that could have been so good in that first game that was so good, tainted by politics and a person that values his own vision over what the community and the fan base wants.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I've definitely had that with certain TV shows, video games, absolutely, that have been destroyed recently. I mean, Game of Thrones is a perfect example where I put in so much time of like, just enjoyment, excitement, learning about it, reading all the books, learning about all the lore. You get really invested into a world that somebody creates, and then the last season or two, they just dump on everything that was created before, and it just ruins it. And definitely can be a bit of a downer. It can be an emotional experience. Like it really sucks when it happens. So I definitely sympathize with you there. I was never like the biggest Last of Us fan. And I think I went into season one pretty dispassionately because I knew where season two was going as well. So I just never like got super connected to it because, how could we at this point? Like we know where it's going. And so yeah, I definitely get you though on the connection to those characters and stories. And
What's
I
funny
think
is that I've been with my girl now for June will be a year for us, and so when we first met, and she watched the show and she's like, "Oh my god, I love the show." I'm like, "Well, that's great. I'm glad. I mean, I have my issues with it, but overall, just like I said in my review, I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. It can stand on its own merits. It's okay." And I said, well, I got a lot of issues. She goes, "What do you mean?" And so I started talking about it. She goes, "Where are you getting all this from?" I said, "Sweetheart," I'm like, "Do you not realize that it's based on a game, right?" And she goes, "No, I didn't know that." And I'm like, "Oh Lord!" So we moved in together. We actually
play the video game.
yeah. Well, we moved in together. She's not much of a gamer, but she's one of those girls that she likes to watch. And so she did.
Yeah.
She was like begging me. She was like playing, like, "You're gonna play The Last of Us tonight, right?" And so I played the remastered PS5 version, and even she agreed. She's like, the game is just so much better. Like I didn't. Yeah, her biggest issue too was Bill. What they did with Bill in the first season of the show, and then seeing how polar opposite he is of that in the game. And it's like, yeah, man, like. So I think a lot of these people that are watching the show and watching the gamers kind of fight back against it and talk about all the issues as any other, and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't sit here and tell me, oh, if we had an actual adaptation, a scene by scene adaptation, that would be boring. Listen, motherfucker, that's what we want. We want as close to that as humanly possible.
There'll be a lot more action, I'll tell you that. There'll be a lot more zombies in the zombie
Oh
apocalypse for
Lord, dude,
sure.
there's. Oh, and I will say that the second episode, the siege on Jackson, that was. I mean, besides the fact it looked terrible because of all the CGI, it was actually a pretty cool momentum boost for the show. Like you get kind of hyped. I was watching Tommy. Using the gas, and they had an actual plan. Like most people in these survivor shows or movies or scenarios, they're kind of stupid. The town of Jackson was actually pretty smart how they made their defenses. So seeing all that was really cool, but it didn't happen in the game.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be an area where I think that was like a good change from the game because, well, especially for the show because it needed that. Like the first episode was so boring,
Mm-hmm.
so it definitely needed that kind of emotional boost that interests the action. It needs the show in general. I think just needs more of that. Um, and it probably will need to keep that up going forward if they're going to maintain interest from the audience.
Well, the
Um,
thing.
I'm,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, the thing that pissed me off about the Jackson thing was that I hate when shows will add in things and then take away things from other things. So I talked about this in my episode 2 breakdown, and that the season Jackson doesn't happen. That's okay, whatever. Like I said, it's a great momentum boost for the show. But introducing a new narrative element here, and that's obviously going to cascade to some of the characters. So my biggest issue with Joel dying was what happens leading up to that, because we're talking about the same Joel who was inseparable from his brother. I mean, this guy trekked
Yeah.
halfway across the country to find him, and then trekked like 5 hours south to Salt Lake, and then 5 hours back up north to link up with him again. So Tommy and him are inseparable in the game. As a matter of fact, Tommy is the only person to know what Joel did, as far as saving Ellie goes. So the therapist scene that happens with Catherine O'Hara's character, that doesn't happen in the game. He's actually talking to Tommy. And so him and Tommy are inseparable.
Hmm.
And it bothered me that they're going up the mountain, and Joel looks back and sees, holy shit, Jackson's under attack. He sees the fire, he sees the gunfights, he sees the infected, and he mentions, holy shit, I gotta get back. Like my brother's there. Ellie could be there. We don't know. Joel doesn't know where Ellie's at that point in time. I've got to get back. And then Abby just goes, nah, well, we're almost there. And then he just says, okay, and just keeps going. I'm like, wait a minute, what? like,
Yeah, that's definitely out of character. I felt that as well. It felt very forced. I mean, just the luck alone that Abby just happened to run in, like the first person she runs into is Joel is such lazy writing. I mean, like the fact that they have this clearly there's a huge issue that's going on with the characters, right? Because they want to show that they're morally gray, right? But like, how do they get into Jackson? With they're like without being morally compromised by killing one of the scouts like they talked about in episode
mm-hmm.
1, I believe. um but it would just been better had they gone into Jackson, found out who Joel was, and got him there, a bit more realistic. Yeah, just having Joel show up and kill the one zombie that was on Abby just before she died, and then her somehow convincing him to go up the mountain, like it all felt very against the grain of the story. It didn't really make sense at all. I totally sympathize with that. Definitely felt weird to me. I was like, come on, man. Like, yeah, you're like you said, your family's down there. There's no reason to go help up Abby. You could just tell her to, like, she's safe. Just get off the horse and you go. I'll go meet up with you later.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah,
my girl, she turns to me and she goes, well, if you look at that situation, there's no way Joel could have done anything. That's not the point. This is the same
yeah,
guy, the exact same guy that railroaded his way through a compound filled with human beings just to save one little girl. The Joel that I know would have went back to Jackson and fucking died there trying to get back to his family, but he didn't.
yeah. Well, I don't think Pedro Pascal's Joel is very much the same energy of that like force of nature character, right? Like he's like fucking Joel in the game is just like he's a being of just raw determination. He's the guy, he's got
He's a
Batman.
fucking man. He is a man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's got it. And I don't think Pedro Pascal either he wasn't given the material to make Joel into that character, or he just can't produce it. But there's something about Joel in the show that just doesn't have it. He doesn't seem like this ultimate badass guy him killing those 22 people or whatever in the last episode is very surprising considering he just doesn't show that level of ability beforehand. I think in the game it's obviously well demonstrated that Joel could easily dummy 100 people if they were in his way. Um, but yeah, it just doesn't really come across on the screen, and I think that's definitely another detriment to the show.
Well,
For
I'm going to
sure.
backtrack a little bit here, and I'm going to talk about something that you just brought up, and I'm getting ready to open your eyes a little bit. But you're going to go fucking seriously when I say this. So, you mentioned
Okay.
that it would have made more sense for like Abby to, maybe get into Jackson or get to know more about Joel or just do more recon as opposed to like, just randomly running into him. What if I told you that was originally going to be in the game?
Oh, was it?
It was. So the scrap storyline, and this is what I thought they were going for because it had the setup. So in the first season, or in the first episode, Joel talks about how many people they're bringing in, and that they don't have space, and that they don't know these survivors. They're just letting people in indiscriminately. And I thought that was going to segue. Excuse me. I thought that was going to segue into a scrapped portion of the story from the second game, where Abby and her group actually go into Jackson. They become a part of the Jackson community under a lie in order to find Joel and to kill him while they're there. That was actually supposed to be in the game. That idea was scrapped.
Well, that would have been a much better story and like would have fit the show a lot better considering they also, mentioned that there's an open door policy, like you said at Jackson. Like they waited not much longer, they would have saw that they could have just walked right in.
Yep.
They could have, they could have,
Thought that's what they were going to do because, Joel has that the big, exposition conversation in the first episode. I'm like, okay, so they're going to go with the idea that they scrapped for the second game, and then they didn't. So it's like, okay, well, what the fuck? Like, you set yourself up here.
why bring that up? Why bring that up? Why make that dialogue happen? Yeah, like why produce that information if it doesn't come back around? That's like a total Chekhov's gun of dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
It
just
has no
funny.
bearing
Funny
on
you
the
brought that
story.
up. So I'm like, yeah, dude, that was actually supposed to happen in the second game, but it didn't.
Yeah. Well, it really bothered because I that's why I thought they were going to go with it too, and it would have been a much more interesting story and much more believable if Abby and her friends had showed up. Like they become maybe part of the community. Maybe there's some conflicting feelings about betraying them and killing Joel, and then it like Joel and Abby become more familiar with each other. Maybe you could be kind of cheeseball and have Abby and Ellie become friendly with each other, and then it's this big betrayal. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics you could play around with that way instead of the first person she comes across as Joel. Like, fucking wow, win the lottery there.
Right. Yeah. That was a
Like
big criticism
Jesus.
we had with the second game. It's like, okay, so not only is she, we have an entire country, we have the entire United States. Not only does she conveniently find the town that Joel's in, the first person that she finds is conveniently Joel, and then she's conveniently able to persuade him to follow her. And it's like all these things are just so out of character. Not only for because, like I said in the game, so this is my review of the second episode. Dina's not with Joel in the game. It's Tommy.
Right, tell me, yeah.
Yeah, it's Tommy. So it's like all these things. Like, you mean to tell me Joel's going to go along with this? And so is Nah, nah.
I think they did a better job with that being the case, that it was Dina, because they do mention that she's like got some frostbite or something, and so like Joel's kind of his decisions kind of weighed towards Dina's health, I guess, and you
Right.
could justify that a bit better, but it just still doesn't like. I don't think they were far enough away for where it's worth the risk of not helping out. Like Dina, I don't know what part of her body was frostbitten. Was it her fingers or something? But like the ride, they're invisible distance. Like it's a far ride, but yeah, you fucking book it across that field, you're gonna get there decently quick.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's
talking.
not. It's not. Yeah, it's not like it's like a little dot in the distance. It's like you can see it.
Right, right. And talking about the future of the show, so obviously I'm the expert between the two of us on the game and the characters in the game, but I would say you're more of an expert on the actress I'm getting ready to mention because you said you're a big Game of Thrones guy. So Bella Ramsey, obviously she did stuff in Game of Thrones. She's here in The Last of Us. I don't know about her performance in Game of Thrones. I've seen clips, nothing. I don't know about the characterizations or anything like that. But do you think any version of Bella Ramsey you've seen so far, Game of Thrones, Last of Us, anything else, does she have enough charisma, enough, oomph to carry the show moving forward?
No, I don't. I mean, like she was good in Game of Thrones for her small part in it. Like she plays this, young. She's not a lord. She's a lady of Bear Island, and she's got a lot of authority for a child. She's very mature. She's strong-minded and strong-willed, and definitely portrays that character very well in the few scenes she's in. But it's not like leading lady material, and I think more evidence comes from Ellie's solo episode in the first season where you see her on her own. Joel's not there to support her character. And it was the worst episode of the season. Nobody liked it. Everyone agreed it was really bad. It felt really out of place. Ellie's romance with the black chick was not very compelling. And, and I just don't think that she's got what it takes because yeah, she's just not Ellie from the first game. She's just doesn't have that charisma. She plays the sassy part of Ellie's character quite a bit, but that kind of empathy that you get from the game's her game counterpart is just not there. And I think that like that scene where she's dealing with Seth, the bigot,
Right, right.
where she deals with him, and there's he's apologizing, gives her the sandwich, and she's just like kind of that cold stare. It's so awkward and cringy, and I think those aspects of her performance really weigh down the character. So I just don't think she's going to be able to carry this show on her shoulders. Essentially, like she's going to have Abby obviously will be a big character,
Hmm.
and that actress seems like she's very capable as well.
Oh,
But
oh man, I implore you to go and look at some of the behind the scenes, like her interviews and her talking to Pedro Pascal. Like that's why I gave the warning I gave at the very beginning of our talk. Like she actually she is a diamond in the rough. She is an excellent actress, and she really has a lot of care for the source material, and she knows the character she's playing. She's very nice. I like her a lot. I don't like her character, but I like her.
yeah, no, I agree. I think she did a really good job with like the material given, and I think she would have been a better choice for Ellie actually as an actress. I think if they
What
had
if
the
I
cast.
told you she was actually considered for Ellie?
Was she? Oh God,
She was
how did they do that?
Yeah, she was there's actually that's some of the interview stuff I was telling you about. There's a couple articles out there talking about how she originally, auditioned for the role of Ellie and she got aged out. That's because she was too old.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. I don't. Oh man. Any like I think there's a elephant in the room when it comes to Bella Ramsey, and it's definitely her. I think appearance. She just doesn't look anything like Ellie from the game, obviously, and she's just very yeah. Like I don't want to be mean, and I was kind of mean in my video. A lot of people called me out on it for essentially calling her ugly, but she's just not a looker.
When she's on screen, 60% of the time, bro, it's just fucking hard to look at, man. Like,
Yeah,
golly.
she just looks like there's not all, the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Right.
She just has
you
she
can't.
doesn't strike me as this survivalist character, you know what I mean? She doesn't look like she would be the one to make it through the apocalypse. And I think the woman who plays Abby does look like that kind of person. And the girl and Ellie from the game looks like that kind of person. I don't think Ellie from the show looks like a survivor. She doesn't look like this super capable person. She looks like somebody who's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and like I said, there were so many different actresses that were trying out for that particular part. I mean, we had not only Caitlin Devers who auditioned for it. We know that Ramsey did. I know that what is her name? Give me just a second here. Sophia Lillis. There we go. Sophia Lillis. You probably don't know who that is, but if you have you seen It Chapter 1, the first the remake?
Oh, I know the actress you're talking about.
Yep,
Yep.
the girl. Yeah, the girl that she actually tried out for Ellie as well. And for me, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about her looks. We can do that ad nauseum, or we'll just let the internet do it for us.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like whenever, and this is why I always suck off the Sonic franchise and Paramount because when they released that first Sonic trailer, the entire community was like, "You're out of your fucking mind. That thing looks ugly. You need to fix it now." Or we're gonna burn your house down. They were just they were just
Yeah.
going, and so Paramount as a result was like, hey, we got you guys, and they fixed the design, and look, now they have 3 very successful movies, and so it's kind of a shot to the gonads when there was a huge uproar about Bella Ramsey being Ellie in the fan base and the gaming community. I would say the majority of, there were some defenders, but the overwhelming majority thought this was just stupid. And they did it anyway. And it's like, okay, well, you get what you fucking deserve then.
Yeah, like across the board, I can't say whether Bella Ramsey's like the worst or the best actress ever. You know, like she's okay, but yeah, I don't think she hits those emotional beats. Like the role of Ellie is like a really strenuous character. You know, like you got to have a huge range of emotions to be able to play out, and you got to have a lot of personality. And she doesn't really bring that to season one. She's not bringing it to season two. She's just a brick of sassiness. She's not really anything else.
Oh, dude, that
And
barn fight,
yeah.
I just wanted that guy to punch her right in the fucking face.
Oh,
It's like she's over time. He's like, yeah, I pulled my punch. She's like, really? I'm like, Bella, look at this guy. This guy's like 6'2", and he's fucking built like an NFL player. He could knock your head off.
pulling punches. Oh god, dude, that made me cringe so hard. Why? Why? That doesn't make any sense. You know, you're practicing. Why would you want him to punch you? It's hard. Like, let's say you could even take it. It's just not worth it. You know what I mean? You're living in a society that has no medical care. You know, like you're not. I said this in my review, like every bandage, every, needle is super valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go wasting it on people who want to get their their head beaten in by a giant dude. Like the guy's big, and she somehow takes him down, of course. But like, come on, like why would like it just doesn't make any sense. You don't want to risk serious injury while you're practicing combat. You need to.
Right. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
be as critical of that fight as a lot of people are. Like, I mean, I know my fair share of martial arts. I did get my brown belt in Marine Corps martial arts, and I've done Greco-Roman and judo. Got my blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I know my way around fighting. And I won't be as critical in that sense. Like how she made him tap out and how she's able to position herself to submit him. I actually think that was relatively realistic because women are very quick. They're actually a lot smaller than guys are too. So being able to redistribute our weight against us is actually a real life thing in real fights. I think that how that one went down, it was a little unbelievable, but I can believe that a woman of Bella's size could submit a big guy like that if she caught him lacking. That's fair. But to sit here and say, punch me in the face, I'm sorry, you fucking stupid. Like, you don't win in a physical altercation. You can win rolling on the ground and catching someone lacking and not having the right positioning or not having their weight, where it needs to be at. That I can understand. Taking a lunchbox-sized hand to the face, no.
Yeah, that's not training. That's just stupid. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, especially like I said this. Yeah, how do you explain to the rest of the community who's relying on you to do certain chores and duties? Like, oh, I can't go on patrol today because he knocked all my teeth out because we were practicing.
My nose is broken. I can't fucking breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I have a question for you with this show. Do you think The Last of Us could be fixed with like any one solution, or is it so broken at this point that there's no real way to redeem it now? Like, is there a salvage job that could be done?
No, I don't think so. As much as, and I'll say this, I would love for there to be. Like I think I've shared extensively what this franchise means to me, not only as a game, but as a entertainment property, as a show. I would love for there to be some way to salvage it, but how things went down with Joel, and him being as integral to the story as he was, that mentorship to Ellie, and I mean, there's a certain subsection of the fan base out here that's never played the game that just fell in love with him because of the actor that plays him. So when you remove that, like because like I said, the rest of the season should be them trying to justify what Abby did, trying to get us, the viewer, to forgive her and to explain why she did what she did, and trying to get us to like her. And it's going to go down the same way it went with the second game. It's going to be a great narrative. It's going to be a thrilling story to explore, but we're never going to sympathize with Abby. You killed Joel. So I don't think there's going to be a way to save it, but I will go on record and say I wish there was. I hope maybe they try to, but I don't think it's possible now.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you on that. I don't think that they can really fix it at this point. Yeah, like for all the reasons you said, it's just you're. I think really just comes down to not having a replacement for Joel. Like there's just no character that's gonna carry that show's weight the way that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that shows a lot with Bella Ramsey's solo episode, the solo Bill episode. Like it's just like you're kind of waiting for Pedro Pascal to come back on screen. And even though he's not the best interpretation of Joel, he's certainly still the best character in the show. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so
agreed.
I think it's really gonna have a huge hole. And I predict I'll go on record and saying I predict that this show will have the same kind of course as The Mandalorian did,
Mm-hmm.
where there was this big interest in the beginning, people loved it. Season two, noticeable drop off, and then by season three, everyone's kind of forgotten about this show and it's not popular anymore. And I have a feeling that's where this is headed. By the third season, and if they get to a fourth, there's not going to be the same kind of interest going on, and it's because they killed it before it even got going.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I was just explaining to my girl, about how that second game went down, and how the story choices, like when you think about controversies in gaming, The Last of Us Part Two is like it's monumental. It's one of the biggest controversies in gaming history.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so much so, like I did a poll on my channel, which it's a relatively small poll, but it got 210 votes, just to show you how split the community was. Even people that didn't play the game. Got to remember, but people that follow my channel, they didn't necessarily play the game. They may just be watching the show. Out of 210 votes, 26% of them said it was a great episode, and then 25% of them said I hated it and I hated everyone involved. So you get what I'm saying. And then there's another 22% that said it could have been better. So what that's trying to illustrate there, is obviously my poll is not definitive, but out of just a small subsection of people, even in that small subsection, the community is quite literally split right down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I think another thing going against the show is the splitting you're talking about. So because the game already had that split, right? Only let's just say half the audience of The Last of Us liked number two.
Right?
So then you have that only half the audience of that show, of the games is probably going to get invested in the show because they know what's going to happen, like we do, right? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of watching it with dispassion. A lot of people are just not going to watch it at all. So you already have kind of a huge deficit in the amount of people that would have naturally tuned in. And
Right?
now that these people, a lot of them who haven't played the games and are fans of Pedro Pascal might be discouraged to watch it because their favorite character is gone. So you
Mm-hmm.
now have another split. And so you're really just left with like this kind of hardcore Last of Us audience that are defending it to its to the last breath. Not that Neil Druckmann can do no wrong. That's great. I love it. Blah blah blah. Like that's who your show is for. I just don't know if that can carry an entire television series with views and the money, right? Because this comes down to a lot of who's watching it, how much money are they getting from it. Is it going to be a success if nobody's watching it?
Right. And so I kind of compare this situation to kind of what we saw with The Walking Dead, which I read all the graphic novels. I'm that kind of nerd. Prior to the show even coming out. So I was
I've
just like,
watched. I've read most of them.
yeah.
I haven't finished it. I
Uh,
read. I think up to 25.
oh, nice. Okay, you're getting along then. Um,
Yeah.
but so we kind of knew what was going to happen in the show. And so the situation I compare from The Walking Dead to here is Glenn, which we knew Glenn was going to die. That was going to happen. But the people that hadn't read the graphic novels didn't. And you saw a mass exodus from the show. That was kind of a pivotal point. I mean, they've gone on and made all these other seasons and spinoffs and stuff like that, but the show was never the same after Glenn's death, despite that was supposed to happen. But I think where the difference between the two shows are going to be at is that I would argue season 7 and season 8 are my favorite seasons, despite Glenn dying. And here's the reason why. They took away Glenn, they took away Abraham, but they introduced Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan. And
Yeah.
Negan himself could carry, I mean, he has. So they're doing what is it called? The Dead City with him and Maggie. Negan himself can carry an entire show. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is fantastic. I love him as Negan. So they killed off fan favorite characters, but then they introduced someone that could kind of fill in that void. Still didn't. They still lost a shit ton of viewership. So now look at The Last of Us. You've killed off someone who was way bigger than Glenn, someone who's more beloved than Stephen Yeun, and who have you replaced it with? There is no Negan here. There is no charisma vacuum that is, you know what I'm saying? That when Jeffrey Dean Morgan's on screen, all the charisma just comes in, into him. You have nothing to replace Pedro Pascal. So what do you do here? So I think it's going to be a worse fall off than The Walking Dead was.
Well, I was challenged in the comment section just recently by someone said like something along the lines of I'm wrong and like they like seeing me fail as a YouTuber because this show is gonna be the best thing ever. And we're gonna look back on this video and be like, hey, he was a fucking idiot. That was kind of the vibe of the comment. I can't remember exactly what they said, but I think you're right. It's going to be a huge drop off. And for all the reasons you said, yeah, like charisma vacuum's the perfect way to say it. They just don't have that person to fill that void. And they won't because they'll have to go away from the game to do that. Because I don't think the game had that person to fill Joel's place. And to do that, they would have to step away from they'd have to create a whole new character that's super interesting and would have to take over the story though. And they're not going to do that. They're just going to play it out as closely to the games as they can.
I wish I could have seen that person in your comment section because you can sit there and talk about the show's going to be this, show's going to be that. So here's the thing. Talking about how good the show is going to do right now is speculation. Here's what's not speculation. The first game has sold over 35 million copies. The second game hasn't even sold half of that. So don't sit here and tell me. Yes, the second game sold about 15 million copies. The first part one.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, dude. When I come and I make these arguments, I got all the receipts. Like we can go back and forth. So yeah, the second game's only sold about 15 million copies, and we're so sure that because they did a remaster, a PS5 version for the second game back in 2022, they won't release the sales figures on that remaster. So we're thinking it did pretty horribly too. So that person can sit there and talk about how good the show's going to be and how it's going to live on and be the greatest thing ever. We don't know that, but what we do know is that the second game failed. It failed so bad that the third game got canked altogether. It's not happening. So don't sit here and try to tell me that this thing is going to be the greatest thing ever when we already have evidence that it's not going to be.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, that's a really good point, man. Wow, I didn't realize the sales figures were that bad.
Oh,
I thought the second game did a lot better. That's crazy. Wow. Okay.
When I say I'll defend that first game and Joel Miller as a character to my death, I mean it. Brother, I've got an entire encyclopedia knowledge on it.
I like Joel's a really cool character too, and yeah, like going back to the ambiguity of that ending, like yeah, just continuing the story past that point, I think is wrong because they took that moral stance against Joel, and the show really, I think, tried to make Pedro Pascal less of a manly, Joel, less of a strong dude. He cries a lot. He seems very physically, he's physically weak, and just compared to the game Joel, that they essentially just made game 2 Joel the Joel for the show. Like he was never game 1 Joel. He's always game 2.
A lot of these people talk about is people that again that don't know what they're saying. They talk about how Joel has an emotional side in the game as well. He does. But here's the difference. So let's take what happened between him and Catherine O'Hara in the show, where he cries. And I did. I threw the remote in the air and I said, this is not the Joel I know. Because he's crying to some woman that he barely knows. He does cry in the game, but that, like I said, that sequence doesn't happen between him and a therapist in the game. It happens between him and his brother. If there's anybody as a man that I'd be willing to expose my emotional side to, it would be my brother or my father. That makes sense to shed a tear when, having that kind of emotional moment and you're there exposed with a member of your own family. Not some fucking dumbass therapist that he killed her husband. That made no sense to me. But
that doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, that bothered me as well.
But the situations are different. When someone says, well, he's emotional in the game too. No, context matters. You can be emotional with your brother or your father. I mean, as a matter of fact, as men, if we're not emotional with our father, what are we doing? That's the person we should confide in the most, or a brother confide in the most, But to do that with a random therapist that he obviously doesn't know very well at all, because their conversation starts out with how he killed her husband and all that. So this sounds like this is their first meeting, and he's already crying in front of her. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think it had been a meeting or two before that, but you're definitely right where it just felt unnatural, and I kind of forgotten because again I haven't really played the game. I know the main story beats that Tommy, or say that Joel opens up to Tommy, and that would make a lot more sense because, like you said, he has context of the situation. He knows what's going on. He's in touch with Ellie and Joel, like he's the bridge between them essentially. So it makes sense that Joel would talk to Tommy, of course, over anyone else, especially not a woman he's got a weird relationship with, because obviously he knows he killed her husband. I'm
Yeah.
not going to open up to I'm not going to even try to open up to her like she, really, like, I don't know what he was planning to get out of that situation. He can't obviously tell her what happened because then she would know, on top of the fact that he killed her husband, that there was a chance to, save him with a cure, and he stopped that from happening. So that would, you know, obviously ruin the relationship even further. The only person he can talk to is Tommy.
Yeah, and that scene kind of it provides a little more. You're talking about the moral ambiguity of it, and that scene is done as a double down in the second game, because we see when he's talking to Tommy, he's actually fixing the guitar that he later gives to Ellie and sings the song and all that other stuff. But we see the scene of him going through the Fireflies, the compound. All that's replaying in his head again. And Tommy looks at him and he says, Joel, what did you do? And you just see, Joel he kills the doctor. He picks up Ellie again. The scene kind of fades from there. And he just goes, I saved her. And it's like, not only is that line, like, again, showing that emotionality and him shedding a tear in front. He's, he's kind of throwing himself at his brother's feet and exposing himself. But it also serves as he did the right thing. He thinks he did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that Joel in the show thinks that either. I think that's kind of another the way they portray him, because he doesn't defend himself. He has that moment where he says, "I saved her," but like you point out, it's not the same meaning behind it because the woman has no context of what he's talking about. Um, and so I think the show does everything they can to subtly turn against Joel, even in himself, because he's not. And I think another interpretation of his death scene, where he's not defending himself to his attackers, to Abby's friends, is a sign of, like, he's accepting the fact that he's a bad person. He's accepting he made the wrong choice, that he deserves to die. And I just don't see that as the ending of the first game and the first, or the show kind of also plays into this, but the first game doesn't end that way. It seems like Joel made a hard decision, but he's not. That's his kid. He's not gonna feel like
Right.
overly terrible about it. Like, they were trying to murder her. She had like, I think people also forget about that, the fact that these guys were trying to kill Ellie without her consent. Like, I know she was a person that would probably sacrifice herself in that situation given the chance, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't give her that opportunity. It wasn't like they were like, "Hey, are you okay with this?" And she's like, "Yep, I'm good with it." And then Joel came in and ruined everything. It was like they were gonna fucking straight up kill her without her consent. She had no idea what was happening, and that's and like, what did you expect Joel to do? Like, it would have been such a shitty story, and we would think less of him as a person if he just walked away. Yeah,
I could just see it now. Him just like handing her over, and then just like the Michael Bay song comes on. What? No, it's just him walking away. It's like,
just
no.
does.
It's something else that they did too that I thought was nitpicky, but it does kind of attack the foundation of which Abby made her decision. So she talks about how her father, a doctor, he walked in, he stepped over the body, he killed him, but she made sure to point out multiple times that he was unarmed. He was not unarmed in the game. When you first run into the doctor in that first game and bust in, he grabs a scalpel and directs it at Joel.
Yeah.
And
He
that's
says, "I'm
when
not gonna
Joel
let you
shoots
take
you, and
her."
it's like, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I just hate the fact that they try to walk this back and make Joel like this evil person. And I had this debate with a friend of mine because he's a big I think he's more on, he thinks Joel's a bad person. He thinks Joel's decision was wrong. And I think it comes into the philosophy of what's at play here, like, are you a utilitarian or are you a deontologist? Is it, the ends justify the means. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or are you the guy who thinks that if you commit a crime, then you deserve to pay for that crime? And so it's such an interesting debate to have. And so the show really just takes that side of, yeah, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Joel's a piece of shit. Fuck Joel. Everyone, including Joel, hates him. So they all hate him. Even though Ellie, I just don't get Ellie's perspective either, because he saved her life. Yeah, if I woke up and he told me, "Hey, those people are going to murder you and harvest your brain for maybe the chance of a cure." It's not like even guaranteed.
That's
It's
what a
not
lot of
like,
people forget. It's a chance.
yeah,
It's not a surefire
it-
shot.
yeah. It's like I would have been like, "Thanks, yeah, I appreciate not dying." I know that there's like this sacrifice, and maybe Ellie's just such a good person that she's so suicidal that she wants to make Joel feel like a piece of trash for saving her life. But like, what would Ellie have done in his shoes, right? Like, let's say it's shoe on the other foot. Ellie wakes up and after the flashbang happens, and they tell her, well, Joel's being prepped for surgery. They're gonna kill him because there's maybe a chance of a cure. And let's say Ellie had the abilities that Joel has to just run through a hospital and kill everybody.
Well, this is modern day
I,
Hollywood, so let's just say she does.
yeah, well, I mean, she probably could wrestle them all to the ground. Let's face it, she could probably just beat them single-handedly with her fists. She wouldn't even need to shoot anybody. Um, she would have probably saved Joel. I just don't, and I think if you say that's not true, if Ellie was in Joel's position, she wouldn't have. It lessens their relationship. I think their bond is so tight that they would have, and that she would have saved him, and that's why she forgives him at the end of game one. It's so obvious that she knows he's lying. She knows that Joel's story about there being 1,000 people that are immune, all that stuff, it's like full of holes. It doesn't make any sense. And she knows that he's lying. And he knows that she knows that he's lying. And there's this great moment where she's just like, you know what? I love you. I forgive you. I get it. And they walk off together.
Well,
And it's like this.
it's not even that. It was left more ambiguous than that. At the end of the first game, she asked him to promise her. And he makes the promise. He tells her what happened. He promises. And then she looks at him and says one word. Okay. That's it. There is nothing else you need to do there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, but nope. We need to have a whole couple episodes of Joel, Ellie hating Joel for something that she knew that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on the side. I think she knew that he was lying. I think that she just accepts what he says because that it's more about their relationship than what he did, right? She can forgive him for being a bad person because they need each other.
Yeah,
I think
I think that's what the okay was that she says at the end of the first game. She knows what happened, but she's willing to accept his version of what happened because of the bond that they have. And it's not a yes, a no. It's just okay. It's just everything is fine. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that perfectly sums up the fucking problem with season 2 and game 2 is that you couldn't get any better than that. That was it. That was the ending. If you just left it at that moment, that perfect okay, we walk off together. It summarizes, like how they feel about each other. It tells the audience that, where they're going to go in the future. It was a nice fulfilling ending to a pretty sad overall story, right? Like this is not a an uplifting tale, but the ending is really good. And it's morally ambiguous, but there is this kind of like sliver of hope where the two characters, they made it to Jackson, they're going to start a new life together. And that's canon ending for me. I think that's Joel and Ellie never got past that point in my head.
You got headcanon. There we go.
Yeah, headcanon, that's it.
Well, we've gone on. So, do you have? I know you said you had a couple of questions. Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on before we kind of roll? We talked for almost an hour on the fucking Last of Us.
Yeah, I knew we were gonna get in the weeds here, but no, I feel good. Yeah, I think we said everything that I maybe the last thing I could mention, what really got under my skin, a little nitpicking. Abby standing on top of that rock watching fucking Jackson. She's doing her scouting and she's just sitting there shivering, fucking like, and she's cold all the time. And I thought that was so fucking stupid. That's so dumb. Like, why are you not in some kind of shelter? What is the point of sitting there standing on top of a mountain? Like, you could find another vantage point. Just hide behind the rock at least a little bit so you're not getting that wind chill all the time. Just standing there, just freezing your ass off. It's not like there's so many different areas you could watch Jackson from. Like, go down into the woods, get out of the wind. She's just standing there with like, not like no real protection. She's just completely exposed. That really bothered me.
It's just we can sit here and beat this to death on how the show doesn't make any sense, but we're here now, so
Yeah,
that's what we're doing.
now that I've said that, I feel like I've gotten everything.
It's like, hey, man, what problems do you have with the show? Well, how much time you got, buddy?
Yeah, over an hour.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's scoot on along here and let's talk. So we're on the subject of video game adaptations, and Last of Us, what it's worth, it's decent. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's just kind of middling, which sucks. But something that has taken the box office world by storm. What if I told you, my dear friend, Mr. Offended, that the Minecraft film is barreling towards 1 billion at the box office?
Yeah, I actually have the numbers up here because I was curious about how well it did.
Worldwide.
816 million. Yeah. Well, I think the drinker said it in his review of the movie that it's going to make $1 billion, and it's pretty much guaranteed to now. Yeah.
I mean, talk about your core audience. I mean, you and I both had issues with the film, and I don't think it's good at all. But when I talk to my kid and she can recite the Lava Chicken song by heart, it's like, okay, apparently they tapped into something other than themselves and really appealed to the people that they needed to appeal to, which was the hyperactive 8-year-olds, and then these assholes that are throwing popcorn around the theater and bringing in live chickens.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I saw a short on that, and I'm like, someone literally snuck in a live chicken during the chicken jockey scene.
I didn't know about the chicken. I do about the popcorn throw. I didn't hear about the chicken.
Yeah, someone I put a clip of it in my accountant's review. Yeah, someone snuck in a live chicken, and I'm like, what? Why? Which I think Minecraft hit all the notes it needed to. I didn't like it. I don't think it was that great of I say it's a perfect video game adaptation. They got the world right. They got the tone right. They had a bunch of creators in there. They hit all the notes they needed to hit, but it didn't make for a very sound, narratively good film. It just was all over the place.
Oh man, yeah, I think that's like the definition of slop. Like, just here's a product, here's a famous name, slap it on there. It's like, there's no story, there's no real meaning behind any of it. It's just like, yep, this is the video game. Here you go. Here's Jack Black, Jack Black on an easy payday. I think we said this in our last conversation, but total just basic, no thoughts, just ChatGPT writing the script. Like, it's not complicated. It's not made for anybody besides children.
Yeah, I think Nintendo should have made Jack Black sign a non-compete clause because he did what he did as Bowser in the Super Mario movie, which I loved. I'm not sure he was the perfect casting for Bowser, but I liked what he did. I thought it was funny. It went with the rest of the film, but then he went on to do Claptrap in Borderlands, and now he's Steve in Minecraft. And it's like, my God, Jesus. Like the guy's a big gamer. He knows his stuff. I get that, but it's like, Jesus, you're the thing about Jack Black is you're getting one of one performance there. He's going to be Jack Black, and that's what you're paying for. Yeah. But it's like, come on.
Yeah, he essentially just retired. he's just coming out of retirement every once in a while to play himself. Yeah.
Well, you hinted at our conversation before I hit the record button that you had an issue with, which, by the way, I ended up deleting it on accident, my freaking video game tier list. As I was going through and uploading a bunch of stuff, trying to figure out what was copyright and what wasn't. And when I was deleting stuff, I accidentally deleted that, but it is what it is. But you said you had an issue with me putting the Fallout TV series at the top of the list. And I've got quite a few followers, too, that'll be listening to this that also agree that the Fallout series is at the top of the list. Why do you think it's not?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think it would have to be here for a while, but essentially they really ruined. I mean, I'm a huge Fallout New Vegas guy. I like
Okay.
Fallout New Vegas. I played like you played The Last of Us 20 times. I have played that game. Like I've done every decision. I've done every outcome. I've replayed it, replayed it, replayed. I love that game. I know the lore really well. It was like the first time actually in any media that I got into like deep into what was going on behind the scenes, what was going on with the characters, what's like the lore. Like I read every wiki page. So I'm a diehard Fallout guy,
Okay.
especially Fallout New Vegas. And the show made itself canon to the games.
Yes.
So this is the biggest issue. And clearly the people who wrote the show have no respect or no love or really no interest in what's going on in the Fallout universe. They've just ruined it beyond repair. They've just destroyed, like completely paved over everything that was built. So I could sit here for a while and like dissect it and talk about the factions and all that stuff, but I think the biggest slap in the face was what they did to the NCR. The
Okay.
NCR, a really big faction in Fallout,
Yeah, New
and
California Republic.
oh yeah,
Oh, brother, I started
and
playing Fallout 3. As a matter of fact, I was talking about my week's agenda, how many videos I had to put out, and these
yeah,
motherfuckers dropped the Oblivion remastered. I'm like, come on! In the middle of all this stuff I got going on.
I gotta play Oblivion again.
God, but okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, because I know you said you've got quite a bit of ammunition as to how you could just tear apart the show, but I noticed that your central issue was that they made the show canon to the Fallout universe. If we remove that, if it's not canon, do most of those issues still exist, or do you still think you have a platform to criticize it?
Oh yeah, I mean like it's not a great show in of itself. I don't think. I think there's a lot of problems with it. I think there's a lot of problems with the character of Maximus. For example, he's just this completely unsympathetic, inconsistent, slab of meat that has no personality beyond what the scene needs of him in that moment. Um, yeah, there's so many. It's really hard to kind of sit back here and pick on specific things that I hated about it because I'll get too into the weeds. I'll get too. We should almost just make a whole other video discussing it because it's there's a lot there's a lot I could get into. But yeah, essentially, yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies in the characters. The story is kind of messy. It doesn't really make any sense when you start thinking about what the characters were doing. In any particular scene, like Moldover's character, like the villain, her motivations are really strange, especially when you watch the first episode again. She comes into the vault, she's pretending to be an overseer, but then she brings all these raiders in to come capture. Well, fuck, it's been a while since I watched it. The dad, she captures the dad, and then she brings him back to L.A. And so, like, okay, so she has that objective. She wants to capture the dad. Why, if she is such a humanitarian, would she bring all these raiders in to just brutally murder innocent people and, and kill them to capture one guy and bring him back to LA? Right?
Okay.
Like it's revealed at the end of the show she's doing all of this for the right reasons. She's trying to, bring energy, free and endless energy to the wasteland. She has all these great ideas of helping humanity, and it just doesn't really make sense in hindsight when they set her up as the villain. She's doing anything but that. She seems to, kind of almost enjoy and revel in murdering people. So
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
that's just like, yeah,
what a lot of people talk about, though, and myself included, is that the Fallout TV series is not a direct adaptation of the game, more as it adapts certain elements and falls within the same universe while trying to stay consistent with the same things that happen within the game. For instance, like the ghoul. The ghoul is not a real character in the Fallout series. There are ghouls, but his specific character is not in any of the games. But they use the knowledge they have of the games, of these type of people, of these characterizations, and then they created him for the show. So do you not think it's not faithful to the games in any shape, form, or fashion? Do you think they just completely botched it, or do you
yeah. I
think
mean, yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of just references. They rely a lot on the references without understanding it. And there's a good example, like with the ghoul you brought up, how it's not, faithful to the games because he's taking that serum all the time that stops him from going feral, for
okay,
example.
okay,
That doesn't exist in the games. That's not a thing. It's because it doesn't really make any sense. Like, how did that even come about the first time? Like, he's one of the first ghouls you can assume because he's, from pre-war. So he's like one of the first ones out there. Who made the serum before he went feral? Like, how did any of these ghouls survive long enough to without the serum before it existed? When did the serum get created? Who was it made for? And
Well,
how does it become so regulated that you could just come across it at a super duper mart, right?
well, you're right. I
But
mean, the ghouls within the Fallout universe, which I've played. I've played Fallout 3, New Vegas. I'm with you. I love New Vegas. I hope that's the next remaster that Bethesda does. Fallout 4 was okayish. I'm a big builder guy. I like the building. 76 didn't like, but from what I know of the games and the ghouls, it has nothing to do with medication. The fact if you go feral or not just has to do with the amount of nuclear exposure that you get. So if you're someone that you're literally taking a bath in this shit, you're going to be a feral ghoul. But if you're someone that was relatively far away from the blast site, you were exposed a little bit to nuclear radiation, and you started transforming a little bit, but you can just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has nothing to do with medication or being along a certain timeline or like, oh my god, if I don't take this thing in the next 72 hours, I'm going to turn. It just has to do with that initial exposure to radiation, right?
hmm yeah, that's how I remember it and understand it as well. Yeah, and it makes a lot more sense that way. But this whole serum thing, really, like they're gonna have like there's so many things that the show does that they're gonna have to really try to work around in the games now. But like that's gonna be a huge one because there's so many main characters in the games that are ghouls, and this has never come up before.
Yeah, I was about to
Like
say
this
that
is
with
never.
the Children of Adam, I remember that. I just got through doing a Fallout 4 playthrough, and the Far Harbor DLC. They have the Children of Adam there. They're actually turning into ghouls because the nuclear pool there's at the bottom of the ship, what they're worshiping, Adam. They're so close to that radiation that they're starting to, I guess, ghoulify. I guess would be the word there. So I guess this whole medication, the serum thing, that kind of goes out the window. I don't know. You bring up a valid point there. I never thought about that.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I think that's the problem with the show is that like I watched it kind of dispassionately. Like I was working a lot of the time and on my computer, so I'd have it kind of on in the background, and so I never like fully paid attention to it. And so after watching some reviews of the show, Mahler does a really good one. Um, diehard Fallout fans get into it, and they start pointing out all these lore issues that are going on, and once you see them, they're just really hard to unsee, especially if you're really aware of the canon of the area. And yeah, the fact that they chose California for the setting was a huge mistake. They shouldn't have done that. They should have done some. There's so many places in America that have not been touched by the Fallout games yet that they could have made their own lore for that area and kept it there. Um,
I agree. I agree.
but yeah, so now that they're involving themselves with all these well-worn places, like so many of the games have taken place in California. Like there's so many lore issues that you're stepping on all the time. There's just little landmines going off every time you go into a new area because it's like, you could just constantly reference the game. Like, well, that wasn't what happened in the game. That area shouldn't look like that anymore. And I think the show's desire to make Fallout just look like Fallout forever is pretty prevalent. Like they do that with the NCR. Is that the NCR represents this change in the Fallout franchise? So like, when Fallout 1 starts, there's like, humanity's like at square one again. New factions are rising up to take the place of old governments and stuff. Fallout 2, you start to see that start to fruition. And then by Fallout New Vegas, like the NCR are the representation of this, humanity's like come back around again. There's like a functional government, they've, democracy is coming back. They're bringing, organization to the wasteland. And then the show just fucking threw some nukes at them. The NCR no more, resetting everybody back to that square one setting of that classic Fallout skin where things are disorganized. You got little like scrap heaps of cities and shit. Like,
Well,
so I think,
I'm sure that you're sitting back with bated breath, like I was for the second season of The Last of Us, because based off of on-set photos surrounding areas of where they're producing the set for the second season of the Fallout show, it appears they'll be touching on New Vegas. How do you feel about
oh,
that?
I, Oh man. Ugh. And don't even get me started on Mr. House, dude. They fucking ruined Mr. House already, and they're gonna like he's obviously gonna be probably a part in this new
Oh, he
season.
has to, yeah.
Yeah, but like again, they've made it canon, so whatever it's doomed to fail in my opinion because no matter what they do, they're canonizing the ending of Fallout New Vegas, which is obviously not the thing you should do. There's so many fucking outcomes to that game that you can't create a solution that will satisfy the entire audience, and they're just definitely not going to come up with an ending that is good enough because they're gonna want to they're gonna want to redo all of that stuff. They're gonna make they're gonna ruin it and it's guaranteed. It's just I oh man I get my like you get my blood boiling thinking about New Vegas because again fucking that's the gem game for me. It's the crown
Well, I will
and
say the on-set photos they look good. It looks like they've recreated, New Vegas. Based, I mean, we've only seen very small portions, but it looks like it doesn't look bad. From a game to IRL, I guess you say, to a TV series. I think they did New Vegas. It looks okay.
yeah, well, they did that with the first season, right? Like the show does look good. It looks like Fallout. It has the right skin, but that's all that it is. It's the appearance. It's nothing. It is so shallow. It's not any deeper than the jumpsuits they wear. It's not, it's just like that's it's Fallout. Look at there's a vault. Hey, there's an assaultron. Like hey,
All I'm
Mr.
saying is
House.
they better get my man right. I like Yes Man, from New Vegas. If he's in this, they better do him right.
Oh man, yeah, no, they won't. They could pass up Yes Man somehow.
Yeah, Yes Man, and then I'm trying to think. What is it? The Legion. The Legion is also in New Vegas.
Legion, yeah. Oh man, I really, I have so, I just, I know it's gonna be bad. I'm going in with such low expectations. I'm not. I think the only reason I'll watch it is to review it and complain about it because I know it's gonna be bad. And I shouldn't say that. Like I should go in with an open mind,
Mm-hmm.
and I will. I'll try to withhold my anger as long as I can. But I just guarantee you, there's gonna be something there that's gonna make me go like throw my remote and be like, "That's not him. That's not what Mr. House would have done."
Which big was I'm
But
kind of cruising on Reddit while we're talking about this, and seeing the images of Mr. House, and I see somebody, and it looks stupid, but I think it could work. Someone mocked up Steve Carell to look like Mr. House. Like, that could actually that might work. So I mean, I understand your criticism. I get where you're coming from with the Fallout series. I don't have that series as much close to the heart as I do The Last of Us. Like I said, I think that I put it in the S tier. Maybe not because of which a lot of people were talking about the tier list. They're like, how could you put any of this stuff in the S tier? I wasn't comparing it to the general film. Let's be honest.
yeah.
The video game adaptations, if you compare them to a general one of those to a general film, it's going to be in the bottom tier. But as far as like comparing them all amongst one another, I think Fallout was one of the better ones. I don't think what they did was as egregious as stuff like Blood Rain or Mortal Kombat Annihilation or stuff like that.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And to be fair, a lot of people like the Fallout show, and I think it comes from just maybe a lack of knowledge of the games, or because it just has a very good reception. It was definitely a cultural thing. People started playing Fallout again. Like it was successful. I don't think it's gonna last. I think you're gonna see people drop off, similar to The Last of Us. But yeah, I mean, I have a question for you though when it comes to games. So if you could snap your fingers and have any video game movie that you could, think of made right now, and it would be good, what game do you want to be adapted?
Well, I'll break this down just because that's such a hard question, but I'll
It
answer
is,
the question, but I'll do it in a form of like a category thing here. So let's look at Nintendo. So that's the three major brands. Nintendo, I want to see Legend of Zelda. Microsoft, Xbox, I want to see Gears of War. And then the one, to answer your question, if I could have just one, since I'm a PlayStation guy, I do have a PC. For people that are listening, I have a PC. I can play games on the PC. Okay, I just like playing on PlayStation. It's where my friends are. Fuck off. God of War. I would like to see God of War adapted into screenplay. Probably you'd have to do a show. Yeah, there's no way you could just do a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Are you talking about God of War, like the new what was it, 2014?
Oh Lord, I don't know. Are you talking about the?
What are you just talking about? Like, you would like to do like God of War back from like the old ones?
Well, I think if you took a similar path that I guess The Last of Us could have done with the games being its own season, I really think if you wanted to do like 5 or 6 seasons of a show, you should start back towards the beginning. Start back when Kratos was a Spartan and how he got the his family's ashes imprinted on him, and he takes on Ares, the god of war, and then ascends to becoming a god himself, killing Zeus, all the way up to the modern day timeline, of Ragnarok and taking on Norse mythology. Yeah, I'd like to see all of it. And to be fair, as much as I hate them for what they're doing with The Last of Us, I actually think HBO would be perfect to adapt God of War, because if they took a very similar style that they did with Game of Thrones, it would fit perfectly, like that dark, that granular, that you get what I'm saying, that very gritty, very gruesome. Like they don't pull their punches at all. People die, people are gonna die. They took that approach with God of War. I think they could do it right.
Yeah, that's fair. God of War is a good choice. I think a lot of people want that. I feel like if that's probably one of the games that will get made, because especially because Sony is behind it, they'll probably fund that their own TV show at least, or movie.
What about you? What game would you like to see adapted?
Uh, I think a cyberpunk movie or a TV show would be a good choice. I mean, I
Ooh.
know that there's the animated show. I didn't get through that. I know it's great. I've heard from many people that it's the best show ever, and I've watched some of it. I need to finish it, but I think a live action TV show or movie would be a good choice because you could do a lot with it. You could be pretty original within the franchise, and you wouldn't have to like adapt any one story. I mean, they could do the newest game, but they could do anything really because the universe is actually quite deep and quite interesting. There's lots there to play with. They could just cyberpunk's a very interesting genre in and of itself. So
Oh, brother,
yeah,
I
I think
was I
that.
was a day one guy. I bought it when the game was broken.
Yeah, so did I.
And you're right though, man. And I think just because of this specific character and who plays him, they could do a good job adapting it. If they do a cyberpunk show live action, and Keanu Reeves does not reprise his role as Johnny Silverhands, I will travel to Hollywood and I will be causing some ruckus.
Yeah, well, they could easily get him to do like, yeah, he could easily do that part again. And I'm a female V guy. What are you?
You're a female. No, no, I went with I haven't played the newest expansion, but no, I'm a male V guy, and even from day one, I was a Mantis Blade dude. I've always liked
Okay.
tank like characters. So
Okay, yeah. I'm female V. I do that voice actress fucking kills it. She kills it. She does such a good job. Uh I think yeah, the male guy, he does an alright job. I think the first time I played I was the male V, but the female version, like I enjoy her voice acting quite a bit, and she brings a lot more, I feel like, character to V as a person.
okay,
Um uh but yeah, I was big into the what's it called? The Sandevistan. I'm a
okay,
big Sandevistan guy,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
with
pretty
a,
much
with a
anything that
katana.
that CD Project Red does. Which when it came out, there was the big uproar, and of course they did screw that game up. It wasn't released the way it was supposed to. There was a lot of pressure on them to release the game. They finally said screw it, released it. It was a big ball of crap, and now
Yeah.
it's doing extremely well. I like CD Project Red are the guys behind The Witcher 3, which I've put God knows how many thousands of hours into that game, and so yeah, I haven't been that big into Cyberpunk. I at least haven't played the newest expansion, but I played all the way through the main story multiple times. So yeah, that would be a
Well, apparently they're coming out with a new expansion. Like that's coming out, I think, next year or something. Um, but definitely play Liberty Prime. That's a fucking not Liberty Prime. Is that the name? Is
Liberty
that a
Prime.
robot? Is that an
You're talking about
Autobot?
Fallout again, man.
Yeah, yeah. No,
You're
I'm
talking
thinking
about
about Fallout. Yeah,
Phantom Liberty. Is that the one with
Phantom Liberty. That's yeah,
Idris
it's still
Elba?
in Fallout. Yeah, yeah, with Idris Elba. Yeah, that you could argue that the DLC, the story for the DLC might even be better than the main game story, and I think for as many faults as Cyberpunk had, and there was a lot, the story was so good. The story really saved it from being a trash game. It's one of the few I've gone back and played multiple times, and Phantom Liberty's story is fucking epic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good. It's really-
man, it was a shot to the heart, man. Like, which I know it happens relatively early on in the game, but when Jackie dies, I was like, dude,
Oh,
you're just trying to pull my fucking heart out here.
oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, definitely. There's some fucking rough moments in that game, man. Like that definitely like sits with you. You're like, God damn, this is dark. But awesome. I love it. Yeah. Definitely play Phantom Liberty if you get the chance. It's such a good addition to the story. I'm really excited for what they'll do next because if it's as nearly as good as Phantom Liberty was, then it'll be really good. But they added like this horror mission into the game, and it was fucking sick. They really built the intensity. I haven't jumped out of my chair too often while playing video games.
I'm sorry.
That one,
Did you say horror?
yeah, horror, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I know
have
you're a
my
horror
curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Yeah, no, there's a. Well, it depends on your choices, but I won't spoil it for you. There's a mission where you're up against like a very terrifying uh, enemy, and it fucking pops out of nowhere. There's jump scares that fucking made me jump because you're just not really ready for it. So I don't want to say too much more, but there's this really good horror level, and it fucking just shocks you to your core. Really good. Definitely recommend it. But yeah,
Okay.
if they could do a movie, I think they could do that, or a TV show, and they could do that really well.
Well, it's
You'd obviously
just
need a lot of money behind it, but
oh yeah. I mean, it's going to be a CGI spectacle, but talking about God of War is my choice for an adaptation. You like Cyberpunk, and I don't. As far as adaptations go, I mean, I'm sure we could talk to plenty of people, especially the followers in the comments of what they would want. And I'm pretty sure nobody would name Until Dawn. But that didn't stop Sony from making it anyway.
I
Good
haven't seen
lord.
it.
I know you haven't seen it yet, but the people that are listening, walk into that film and do not expect it to be anything like the game because it is nothing like the game. The setting, the characters, the plot, it's nothing like the game at all. I don't know why Sony made it. And I actually liked it. I gave it a positive review. I said that, I gave it the best intentions. I think that, it's middling. It was entertaining. I liked it. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, but I don't regret going and seeing it. But it just seems so weird to me that these production studios are making these adaptations just in name alone. They're sharing nothing with the actual universe, characters, settings, none of that. And they're just saying this is an Until Dawn movie. But also, by the way, none of the events of Until Dawn happen here. It's just weird.
Yeah, I think that's like definitely a holdover from an older time of video game movies. Like, I think for a while people thought video game movies couldn't be a thing. I think there was this kind of assumption that there has been so many bad ones
Oh, dear
that
lord.
you couldn't make a video game movie good. And I think that's definitely been proven wrong now. And I think that the way you make a good video game movie is you obviously stick true to what the game's about and the lore and stuff like that. I mean, that's what Minecraft had going for it was that
Mm-hmm.
they, if anything, made it a lot about what the game was like. And so if you maintain that consistency, then you're going to have a fan base that comes around and watches the movie. But there's a lot of older game movies that just they took the name, like you said, took the name alone, didn't do anything else with it, and the throwaway, just made a random story like the Doom game versus the movie, like nothing similar about it. Like, what was that?
Or right, if you want to hear me rant and rave, if you think The Last of Us is bad, you ought to hear me rant and rave about Resident Evil. Because
Oh, there you go.
that game franchise I've been a fan of it for much longer than The Last of Us. The first Resident Evil game I ever picked up was RE4, and I played through that game at length. I've got it platinum on my PS5, the remake that just came out a couple months ago. So, that first film, the first Resident Evil film, dude, it was good. It didn't follow the events of the game very closely, but there was enough. It's kind of like Fallout, where it's like there's enough there. It takes place in the same universe. There's some references. There's some nods. You could see this being a part of the game in some facet. And then the second one is, and then on for, oh dear God, I don't know how the hell that made hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Are you done with the Resident Evil games specifically?
Well, I'm talking about the film. So like that first Resident Evil film, which was pretty good. You know, Mila Jovovich. Jesus.
There you go.
That one was pretty good. And then the second one, it was like, okay, all right, well, what are we doing here? And then the third one, like, okay, really, damn it. It just got progressively worse as time went on. And
Yeah.
have you seen
Yeah.
have you seen the Netflix series?
Oh no, I haven't. I mean, I've heard all the worst things. I saw the dance, the dance scene.
I, bro, like you have, and God love him. I love Lance Reddick. May he rest in
Yeah.
peace. Great actor. But you have Albert Wesker, which every Resident Evil fan knows as the following: the most Aryan, diabolical, blonde-haired, like just the spitting image of the most evil white dude on planet Earth. And they made him a bald black guy in the Netflix show, and it's like, wait, what?
Hey, hey, man. What are you talking about? That's so cool now. Okay,
And
we
which I
love
said, Lance,
that.
Lance Reddick, and that's the crazy part of it was that I wanted to criticize them for their choices, and the choices was wrong. But Lance Reddick actually does a really good job. He's not Wesker. So I'm like,
No.
well, you put me in a weird position here because I want to say this guy did a really good job. He had a really good performance, and he carried the show. But he's not who you're saying he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked a lot about casting, obviously, in this conversation. I think that's you got to get the casting down, man. You got to get that. The guy match the character on some level. They got fucking Dolph Lundgren to play Ellie in The Last of Us, uh, or might as well have. And yeah, like now, and then you got with Snape. We were talking about that before we hit record as well.
Oh.
The new Harry Potter show.
To my right here, when it comes down to the Harry Potter fandom, which I am, I'm 35 years old. I grew up reading the books. I have read every single book. I grew up on the films. To my right, inside of my curio cabinet here, I have a signed photo of Professor Snape by Alan Rickman before he passed away.
Yeah.
Snape is my favorite character. I don't know how, in God's name, you're gonna get. How are they gonna get away with this? Because the scenes of Remus and James beating him up when he's younger, which is a big part of his character development, that's going to have a lot different ramifications now that he's black. So,
Harry Potter's dad was racist.
yeah, James Potter, part of the KKK, I guess. I don't know. And Snape, I guess he's going after the white woman. Lily Potter. It's going to be weird. I don't get it. And the thing is that J.K. Rowling has put herself in such a crap position because she's got one side of the aisle that can't stand her. The blue-haired 40-year-old cat people can't stand her because she's come out against trans rights. And now you've got the other half that she just turned a lot of people's favorite character into a race swap version of himself, which is really funny to me because out of all the characters in the Harry Potter universe that are explicitly described in the books, Snape is the one that's described the most. There is nothing vague about him or ambiguous about him in the books. He has a very set appearance. So it's weird that they went with that. That could have made Dumbledore black, and that would have made more sense than it would Snape because Dumbledore isn't really described that much in the books. So I don't.
Yeah, I heard this. I heard the same argument for Hermione. Apparently, isn't as described. So because I think they were talking about having a black Hermione as well. But yeah, I mean, like I know he's described as being a pale, black-haired kind of slimy dude. It's not. It's such a weird choice. Why? I don't know. I mean,
well, not
there's
only
definitely
that,
other.
Rowling actually has. There's plenty of books that come with illustrations that she's done or she's employed other people to do. Snape actually has the most illustrations of all the characters. And if you look at the illustrations that Rowling herself have done of him, he does not look black in the fucking slightest. Middle Eastern, you can make an argument, but not black.
Yeah, well, I think this is just another one of those things. It's just so on the nose. Stupid. We don't need this. It doesn't change anything. Like, why add it? Why make that? It's just a headache. I can't even wrap my head around the decision making sometimes of these people. Like, especially for a woman who has complete creative control over this product, right? Like, she's really the.
We don't know.
She's.
We don't know that.
I mean, like. Okay, sure. She's been pretty vocal about her opinions, though, right?
Well, yeah.
Like
Well, the,
she's
the reason why I say that is that I'm a big Universal guy. I'm an annual pass holder for the Universal parks, and so I know a lot of what went into Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade down there. Like she did, she had an iron grasp on even that portion of her property. Like even when she signed a deal with the Universal theme parks, she had a say in everything that was built within those theme parks. To the point that there's a Halloween event we go to every year called Halloween Horror Nights. And she never wanted Harry Potter to be a part of that event because she felt like it didn't go with the brand very well. So she stopped that from happening until these past couple of years. Now there's Death Eaters and all that. So I said that to say this. She has an iron grip when it comes down to this franchise. But from what I've seen on the production of the new show, I think she's just an executive producer, which all of us know in this industry is kind of a vanity title. So I don't know if
right.
she has much of a say or not, which I don't know.
Huh.
I'm
I
not trying
didn't
to
know that.
absolve her. I'm not trying to absolve her at all. If she's a part of this decision, should be nailed to the cross for it. But I don't know if I would cast blame just yet because I don't know how much control she does have.
Oh, fair. I guess I assumed wrongly then that she just maintained her creative liberty over the creation of the show because that's what she's maintained this whole time.
You may be right.
Um,
I don't know. You may be right. And if you are right, then yes, let's nail her to the cross. But with recent memory and especially with that title, executive producer title, she doesn't get actual. I think it's what PAG or PGA accreditations. Then she's not an actual producer. She's just a person that's wearing the title for the shit of it. So I don't know. You may be right. If you are, I'll side with you. Yeah, she should burn. But still,
well, yeah. Regardless, it's definitely the wrong choice, and I think it's starting the show off on the wrong foot, especially because this is a remake of a show of a series that it's still up to par today. Like the original movie series was, it still looks good. It's not, I don't think it's needing a remake yet. Yeah, it's kind of like when they did Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man right after Tobey Maguire, and it wasn't like enough time to kind of get that breath of fresh air and step away from the series and come back to it. I think there's still, a lot of diehard movie fans that, like I'm not a diehard Harry Potter fan by the slightest, but I just don't think there's enough time that's passed to justify a whole TV show now. I feel it feels like a cash grab. And now that they're like race swapping the characters and stuff, this is just obviously the tip of the iceberg. It could get a lot worse from here, and I just don't think it starts anything off on a note of sincerity or trust from the viewers, because now you're like, well, if you're gonna change race swap the characters, what else are you gonna change? Is Hermione going to be the secret hero of the story? Is that what's coming up next? Is it going to be Hermione, Harry Potter?
yeah, Daniel Radcliffe's gonna be changed out with a trans black woman that has rickets. It's gonna be disabled Harry Potter. But and the thing is that nobody want like you just said, like this is too soon, and nobody wanted this. As a Potterhead myself, they came to us years ago and they said, well, what do you guys want? And we said, we want to see the Forbidden Child. We want to see what happens after the events of the main series with Harry's kid, which was adapted into a screenplay for theater, whatever. Then they did, the magical creatures and where to find them. And we're like, okay, we didn't want this, but okay, I guess we get to see Dumbledore and see the origins there. Oh, by the way, he's gay, whatever. Okay. And then they come to us again. They say, okay, well, what do you guys want after that? What do you guys want, Potter fans? Okay, again, we can't express this to you enough. We want to see the Forbidden Child. We want to see that adapted into a series, either a movie, a series, or something. We want to see the continuity of the story of Harry's kid and what happens at Hogwarts after that. You can do so much with that. And they just turn around and they go, okay, look, we hear you guys. You want the Forbidden Child. How about we redo all the shit we've done before, except we're going to fuck with your favorite characters? Does that sound good to you guys? It's like, come on, man.
Well, like you said with the Forbidden Child, like there's a good opportunity here because everyone's older, right? Like there enough time has passed where everyone that was in the show or in the movies or they're adults now. You could make them parents and have the kids. Like you don't need to age them up really that much. You could just maybe play like Daniel Radcliffe to be a little older. I don't actually know how old he is now, but give him some gray hair and throw all the old actors back into the mix and have the kids play and be a sequel to the movie, and it probably would make a gazillion dollars.
Oh
Because
yeah,
if you said like we're bringing it back, where Emma Watson, we're bringing back Daniel Radcliffe, we're gonna bring back the guy who played Ron, like go for it. Like they're not doing anything.
yeah. I mean,
It's not like they're
and,
not booked up.
and to correct myself, it's the cursed child, not the forbidden child. I got the first forbidden journey, and then yeah, I got that mixed up. It's cursed child. Yeah, Rupert Grint is the guy that plays Ron, and he's actually doing quite a bit in the horror genre. He was a part of oh Lord, what is his name? Oh, I'm messing it up here. Creature feature guy. Oh my Lord, why am I drawing a blank? Give me a second. I'm gonna ream myself.
I wish I could help you. I'm not the
Guillermo
same
del
level
Toro.
of horror fan.
Yeah, he did Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. Rupert Grint's still getting decent work, and he was in M. Night Shyamalan's film too. The one with the horseman. Can't remember what it's called, but yeah, they could bring back those people, especially Tom Felton, the guy that plays Draco Malfoy. He wants to get back involved in the series as well, and hasn't severed his connection with Rowling like Emma Watson has. But yeah, it's just I just don't get it. Like I don't. A lot of the internet comes after us, book fans or us video game fans, and say stuff like, well, it would be boring if they just adapted the books of the games. And it's like, you folks don't understand. That's what we want. It's a very simple concept. You already have a fan base. You have a community that is willing to throw their wallets at you. And you go, you know what? I don't want that. I want to do what I want to do with it, and those people can screw off. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, on a general level, definitely. I think there's like very rare. I think Last of Us Part Two is obviously an example where you don't want them to adapt what they made before. But I do agree with you that I think when most movies fail, it's because they step too far away from what that was originally made. And there's a movie that I really despised because it was based off a lesser known book called Z for Zachariah.
Okay.
And they made a movie out of it with I think it was Margot Robbie and one of Captain Kirk there from the Star Trek remake. I can't remember his name, Chris something.
Chris Pine.
Anyway, they made a remake of this book that I really enjoyed reading in high school, and it was just not the same story at all. Like the book story was so good. It was about a young girl who's surviving the nuclear fallout of a world war, and she's stuck in this little valley that's been untouched because it's like surrounded by hills. So there's like this natural uh barrier to the radiation, and she's all alone. She's stuck by herself in this farmhouse. And then she meets this scientist who's like survived with a hazmat suit, and it's about their relationship, and it's a really cool book because it's all about like the psychology of the characters and their dynamic, and these different perspectives of the apocalypse and all this stuff. And then the movie came in and added in a third character, and it was all this romance, and it's like this really shitty adaptation. And yeah, just like you said, like why not just take what had been made in the books, which was perfect and everyone liked, like you have no notes, and then just make that into a movie. And if you play it play by play, you'll at least get the majority of people on your side because most people like that adaptation. You're going to get very few voices saying, "Don't make that again."
Oh, brother, don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to play the one-up game, but do not talk to me about book adaptations and how Hollywood destroyed it, because about 5 feet from me is a copy of The Lady of the Lake, written by Andrzej Sapkowski, and a part of the Witcher series. So I am very familiar with them taking a set of novels and fucking with it.
Yeah.
God, what
Yeah,
a
well,
disappointment that shit was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like look at Dune, right? Like Dune is a really popular, like what fucking great couple movies they made. And that I'm a big Dune guy. I read the books,
Okay.
and they played it, as close as anybody could have, I think. Like there's a few things like if you really get deep into the lore and like the philosophy of what's going on, you could be okay, that's not what they were going for, but like I understand why they didn't add that part in because it's a movie. But very successful all around. It really reignited like a popular like an interest in Dune. Like everyone became a Dune fan all of a sudden. I remember, like, everyone was just like really into it, talking about all the factions and stuff. And they took like a complex story and world, and they put it on the big screen, and it was fucking awesome. I watched it twice. in the theater, the second one, and they played it pretty close. Like they got, like where they diverged. It was a good time to do that. Like you would like there's an example where one of the characters dies in the movie. Um, it's not how he dies in the book, but there's this kind of vision that one of the characters has where that does happen. So they even like when they kind of went away from the story that happened in the books, they still played it out at one of the scenarios that happened. It's gonna because it's a lot to explain, but you know what I mean. Where they're playing, yeah, they just played it tight, and it was nice, and it was really good, and it was satisfying to watch for both people who had never read the books and for the people who had read them.
Yeah, I'll bow to your knowledge on that one. I've read bits and pieces of the Doom books way back when in school. But as far as having an opinion on the films, yeah, they were good. I really liked Dune too. It was a very visually appealing film, like the sandworms, like that scene where they just come up and there's like two or three of them, and I can't remember the scene where it's happening in, but I'm talking about. They kind of leap up above, and it was a visual spectacle. Dune 2 was really good. A little long, but really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one of those movies that I really want them to do an extended cut of, actually. Like you said, it's a little long. I want it to be, I want to do a Lord of the Rings extended cut
Oh
where I can
God.
watch 12 hours. I would love that. I would like it to be 10 times longer. I really did like those movies. They were really good.
Well,
So,
just to round out this conversation, I mean, we've hit everything from The Last of Us and talked about other adaptations from Minecraft to Until Dawn, Fallout, even dipped a little bit to the books, Harry Potter and The Witcher. Let's end this on a note here, talking about a film that's coming up at the end of the week, which I don't want to say it could be a make or break. I don't think there will ever be a make or break for this particular franchise, but it could definitely revitalize interest in it, and that's Thunderbolts, which early screenings start this Thursday, with obviously opening weekend being over the weekend. So, how do you feel walking into Thunderbolts?
um, apprehensive, I think. Probably like a little bit. That'd be like the nicest way to say it. I think I'm kind of going in with very low expectations. I'm expecting if it does well, it's gonna be like a blip on the heart monitor that is the Marvel franchise. And if at worst it's gonna be as bad as, Black Widow, so no different than what's been put out in Marvel recently. So if I don't think it'll do much to save the franchise, but I'm hoping for just a nice little, hey, this isn't, remember how good Marvel used to be? It's kind of like
Okay,
that.
yeah, but you said
But
you're a big Sentry guy, aren't you?
I do like Sentry.
Okay.
Yep, I like the Winter Soldier. Um, yeah, and I didn't really watch much of the Captain America show. That was pretty much a struggle. But John Walker's character, I think, is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see me enjoying, I think it's the U.S. Agent is his like official title. Like I haven't read any of those comics, but yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Sentry. They could easily fuck it up. But yeah, how do you feel about it? What's your vibe?
I'm not a big Marvel guy. I think we touched on this in our last conversation. I'm a DC dude. Matter of fact, if you go and look at any of my behind the scenes videos, you will see an entire line filled with Batman stuff. Not talking recent Batman either. I have a signed photo from Kevin Conroy, who was the original voice of Batman in
Oh
the
fuck,
animated series.
really? I
Yes, I do.
love Kevin Conroy.
Yes, I do. I got him to sign a poster of mine about 3 months before he passed away. So, um, but I'm not that big of. I say this. I'm not that big of a Marvel guy, but I'm getting the same vibe that I got from James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Just kind of this, which you could say it's a copycat, whatever the hell you could say they're copying that formula, but kind of for a good reason. That James Gunn Suicide Squad film wasn't like perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but what it was fun to watch. There was quite a few personalities. There were some really good actors in there. There was some stupid jokes, stupid, cheesy, but it worked for the rest of the film, and it turned out to be really entertaining. It's a film that like you can turn on and have a few good laughs, and it's a fun watch. Not critically good. You could punch a bunch of holes in it, but it's fun. I think if they do that same thing with Thunderbolts, I'm in. And for me, if the Red Guardian played I love my big boys. Like I said, I'm a tall guy. I keep my eyes on all the other tall guys in Hollywood. David Arbor, 6'5", that's my boy. I think if the Red Guardian gets a lot of screen time, I'll be happy regardless.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, the Suicide Squad, if they could make it like that I did enjoy that one a lot, actually. I think the only problem with it was Margot Robbie. If they cut out her character story there, where she's like with the dictator and stuff, if they just cut that bit out of the movie, it would have been a really good movie. But that definitely slows it down. So, but you're right, the vibe, the jokes, not all of them hit, but it's that level of not taking it too seriously, but pretty much faithfully adapting a lot of the characters. Like you had the polka dot man. Like what a I don't think he's a very I'm not a huge DC guy, you are, but I'm sure he's not a huge character.
He is not, but I love David Dasmalchian, and he did a great job as Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, so if they can do something like that with the Thunderbolts, like, there's a lot of characters obviously like Taskmaster and the phasing chick that they could do a lot with that they're failing to right now. Like, I mean, who even knows about these characters at this point? I mean, Taskmaster is obviously a guy in the comics and an interesting character. The movie, not so much. But if you kind of took yourself less seriously and made these characters, have big personalities, obviously you can pretty much turn anything around. Um, so I would like to see that happen. Do they have the ability to do that? I don't think so, but I'll try to go in as open minded as I can. I'm not gonna go in and be like, this is gonna be the worst movie ever. I'll take it seriously and try to have some fun and see how it goes. I mean, like, hopefully it's just a nice movie that can, maybe bring a little bit of interest back into the Marvel, like you said, but I doubt it.
Well, I'm looking here. I didn't do my due diligence, so we're talking about the style of that James Gunn Suicide Squad and just how it was really outside the box, and it had a lot of violence, gore, quite a bit of language, and all that. I just looked this up. So James Gunn's version of the Suicide Squad is rated R. The Thunderbolts is rated PG-13. So already stylistically, we're gonna have some differences. So
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Marvel. I was surprised they did it with Deadpool, where they went for a rated. But that's kind of like a movie they could just have off to the side. You don't need to watch it to get what's going on.
mhm.
I think the Thunderbolts is going to play a lot more into the main storyline of what's going on in the Marvel universe. So they would never do that for this kind of movie. And so
Wait,
already, I think, yeah,
yeah,
I think the
and I do not,
PG-13.
I don't attribute Deadpool to Disney. People say that all the time, talking about, oh, Disney had a great box office last year. No, Deadpool is not Disney. That's Ryan Reynolds. It's not Disney.
Yeah, that's
If you
true.
don't think for
Yeah,
2 seconds Ryan Reynolds didn't have most of the creative control of that film, then you're just stupid. Like,
No, he definitely took that character and really brought him to the screen on his own. That is a cool story of how he pretty much single-handedly brought that character to life.
yeah, I want to love him for it, but this whole Blake Lively thing and Lord, that is exposed the side of him I wish I never saw because I want to like the guy.
Oh man, well, I think that's like my personal rule of watching. I really try to avoid learning more about these people on a personal level because
Separating
it's
the
just
art from the artist.
yeah, exactly. You never meet your heroes, right? Like they're just not who you want them to be.
Well, fortunately, that kind of stuff now has it's infiltrated modern cinema. I mean, we just you know you can't shut your ears and your eyes to that. I mean, the reason why Snow White failed is because Rachel Zegler was a piece of shit out of the film. The reason why the Alto Knights failed is because Robert De Niro couldn't shut up about the Orange Man. And, his film lost $50 million too. So it's like, even these legends, someone as legendary as Robert De Niro, I don't care about what you think of him personally or his politics. The guy is a legend in Hollywood. And his film, where there's not just one, there's 2 of him, failed. It lost $50 million. That is nuts.
Yeah, that is nuts. Oh man, bringing up Rachel Zegler. I love Rachel Zegler.
God, she's a
Uh,
content farm, buddy.
yeah, she's exactly that. Yeah, she's one of the few celebrities everything I just said about not learning about them because you don't want to you don't want to meet your heroes, you don't want to ruin their reputation. I want to know everything about Rachel Zegler. She's the opposite effect. Her on-screen presence is just nothing in comparison to who she is in real life. She is one of a kind. God bless her. I hope she keeps keeps it going. It's amazing that how quickly she's ruined her own career. It's quite enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, my girl. I do a lot of cons and stuff like that. Like I'll travel out of state to get cons, and I've got which I'm sure I'll do behind the scenes some point in my channel where I show some of the autographs and stuff for people that I've met. And so my girl was talking to me, and she's like, "Well, if there's anyone that you could meet, because a lot of people don't understand that concept. They're like, they're just actors, And in a way, you're right, they are, but they represent a little bit more than that. She said, "Well, who would you like to meet at a con? Like, who would be your hero?" And I said, "Well, I would say Keanu Reeves. I love Keanu Reeves as a person. I love him as an actor. He's not that great of an actor, but he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one person, because you're talking about what they do outside of the screen, I would pick the king of the nerds, Henry Cavill. Would be who I'd like to meet at a
Oh,
con. You talk about
yeah.
separate art from artists and your heroes and all that. Cavill is the shit, man. This guy is not only is he a nerd on screen, but he is a nerd off screen too.
Yeah, he's definitely I think well he's one of those actors that brings his own fan base with him, and I think there's very few of those guys left around. I think it's because he appeals to guys like me and you who are obviously big nerds and want what like what we essentially what we've been talking about. He wants those things too, clearly from the Witcher interviews and stuff like that. He's very into adapting the lore and the story how it was told originally and then making it onto the big screen, and changing that bothers him, it bothers us, and I think he's gained a huge following because of that, because yeah, that's cool. We want more actors like
Oh yeah,
that.
but, if that same guy was late to an audition. He's talked about this. I've seen the interview now. He was late to an audition because he got caught up playing a game of Warhammer 40K. He was late. So
That's
yes,
awesome.
that's the kind of guy I want. You're going back to The Witcher, man. Like he was perfect for it. But yeah, it's hard separating the art from the artist. But nowadays with social media and just how outspoken a lot of these folks are, it's hard. It's hard to separate that now because you don't want to support those kinds of people. If they said it behind closed doors or to a confident someone in the family, that's okay. But people like Zegler who will go in front of a camera, in front of God and everybody, and say that she deserves to be paid for every hour a film is streamed. I'm sorry, but who the fuck are you? Like, so, well, do
Yeah.
you got anything else for me, man? You got any other comments, anything like that?
Um, no, I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I mean, I could talk about Rachel Zegler longer if you want, but I'm a huge fan. I think I'm a actual fan.
Yeah, it's so
uh,
funny to see the cataclysm that is, Hollywood. Just like very rarely do you see like just so much fallout. You'll see like 50% of people defending person A, and then you'll see 50% of people going after person A. With Zegler, it's like 90% of people are like, yeah, this one's a piece of shit. Like
oh
it's so
yeah, no,
glorious.
you don't ever. It's so rare to find a true villain in real life. Yeah. Or like everyone just agree, like Abby says in The Last of Us. There's just some things that everyone agrees you just don't do, and I think Rachel Zegler just does all of those things. Everything you could say or couldn't say, every expression, every her turn of phrase, her very presence on the screen is just like it's just all wrong, and it's beautifully bad. She's just so evil, and you can just sense it through every scene she's in and every interview. It's like me, and I think I saw this when I was making my video about her. Was that I noticed that even when she's not in the camera angle, right? Like if there's an interview with her and Gal Gadot, she's doing everything she can to draw attention back to herself. Like even if she's silently sitting there, she's expressing herself in these big, facial gestures and all this stuff just to, get the camera to cut back to her so that she gets more attention. And I think that's awesome when you when you notice it because it's so fun to watch this like self-entitled brat, talk about politics she knows nothing about, talk about situations and people that she knows nothing about, talk shit about her co-stars, and just be completely oblivious to how she's just destroying everything that she's ever wanted. And arrogant enough to think that she's still going to come out on top. I don't. I think if she just popped onto this call and joined us in a chat, she would think that everything's going great. Yeah. I don't think she has any real like awareness of the real world.
Oh, you're
So
right about the interviews too. There was, man, we did similar videos, kind of documenting in our way, or their different ways of the downfall of her. But you're right with interviews when she's, which, honey, I hate to tell you, like, whatever, you're Snow White, and I understand that beauty is subjective, but what I'm getting ready to say is concrete fact. Gal Gadot is one of the most objectively beautiful women on planet Earth. If she's in the same like scene or same, what do you call it, interview with Rachel Zegler, I'm not looking at Zegler. I'm just not. So watching her try to
well, hey,
combat that one,
beauty's about what's on the inside. That's the movie's message, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that either. Jesus Christ.
Well, I think it's. This is the last point I'll make. I think we can end it after that. It's really funny when they changed that just to be like. It's so funny that they actually acknowledge like pretty much like Gal Gadot's way prettier than Rachel Zegler. So we're gonna make it that beauty's on the inside, right? And the reason that the evil queen, has this problem with Snow White is because Snow White's a better person than her. But that also means that everyone else is worse than the evil queen.
That's what I said in my review. Like, you're having to tell me, right? She says, who's the fairest of them all? And she's this evil, tyrannical, maniacal person. And the mirror still says her. That means that all of her subjects and everyone else in the world are bigger pieces of shit than she is. So it's like, wait a minute.
Than the evil queen.
Like, oh my God. Which, that's not a thing. I speak German. I'm a fluent German speaker. I've read the original Brüder Grimm tale. It has nothing to do with beauty on the inside. It has everything to do with the fair skin, her outward appearance, and her beauty. That's what it has to do with. Not whatever this inward crap Disney tried to do.
Wait, Snow White's not Dominican? Wait, what are you trying to tell me?
No.
Or whatever wherever Rachel Zegler's from, Puerto Rico or something. I can't remember.
Don't know. She's Colombian.
Is she Colombian? No, my bad.
Yeah, she's Colombian. Yeah. That's all I've got, man. We've got this for about 2 hours here. So for the folks that made it to the end of this, I was a little more hyperactive walking into this, and I do want to apologize if I took too much of the mic time. But we started off with The Last of Us, and that got me fired up. So I had a lot of emotion during this talk, so I apologize for that. Offended, do you have anything else, sir?
No, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to the next one. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. And don't forget, like and subscribe. I will shill from my channel and Offended. So y'all have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right, see ya.